Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
You're about to go live. Okay. Well, hurry the fuck up. Okay. A noise happened. Thank you, Dingus, who says, come on, Kev, watch the other thing. Tell us some stories. Well, I think the other thing's like 50 minutes long. Hang on a minute. If it's, I think it's, yeah, I think it's too long. Hang on, 1 minute. Where was it? Where was it? Where was it? I think it's quite a long video.
More Perfect Union
Oh, no, it's only 11
is a
minutes.
progressive media organization turned...
That video was only 12 minutes and it took me nearly 2 fucking hours or whatever it was. Actually, no, it didn't. It took me about an hour. It's the toxic conspiracies of a more perfect union, which is supposed to be mental as fuck, but I don't know. Has Katie sorted her sound issue? I have no fucking idea. Maybe is the answer. Twitch maybe tomorrow too. Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully so, yes. And Katie is now going, so I'll send you over there. Everyone, please go and give Katie a subscription. It's free here on the YouTubes to subscribe, so go and do that. No reacting to Man United fans. I might do that at some point tomorrow or something. I don't know. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening and watching, for all of your support. Yeah. Free Palestine. No pass around.
It's very fresh. This cheeky little rubber makes any dish healthy. Goodness fancy. Especially snack. You're serious about moving? Find out your home's value instant. Enter your postcode now for a free online valuation. Get real about moving. Get on the market.
Great. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for the raid, Kev. Much appreciated. Welcome in, everyone. Oi, oi. Base Brummy. Welcome. 28. Hey-oh. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Super Tiny. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. You've reached the Katie Marshall stream on YouTube. We're over on Twitch. Mad Cats and Feeling Scotty Eye. Welcome, welcome. I've got a sleeping super hubby on his armchair to my right. Let's play something fun. Can everyone hear me, by the way? Hi. Who joins comrades? Limey Redneck. Hi, Limey. Limey is based. Oh, it's like he's here.
You're surrounded by a vampire, a werewolf, and a chain demon. This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. I cast Greater Polycule! Do you mean Greater Polymorph? I do not, no.
Sometimes life gives you lemons and you make lemonade. And sometimes life gives you Nazis. And you depose them before they form a radical death called ethno state. Have a glorious day.
What?
Give me a minute.
Again, talking to girls whose lives were destroyed. Jimmy Kimmel, back on US TV in a free speech scandal. Was he censored by the state? Was he
Disappears. You're right. Rejoice, what you were hearing in the background was Piers. Fuck off, Piers. Yes, like Kev said, our beloved leader, our Prime Minister, is on award-winning journalism tomorrow morning. Telegon, he was watching the Arnie version of Total Recall. Let's finish now. He fell asleep. So hopefully you can still hear me and I can not disturb him too much until he wakes up. It's what happens when you go out to the pub after your wife's went and had a ultrasound of her kidneys and other areas. God, ultrasounds are uncomfortable at times. Do you want to start with Jimmy the Giant? Piers. Yeah. You, I'm getting fed up of seeing him on Laura or fucking Question Time. I really am. He decided to move over to America because he was an absolute fucking scumbag over here for obvious reasons because he's Piers. But every now and we see him at least once or twice a month back here in the UK. Like, I get it, he's a UK citizen, fine, fair enough. But you decided to piss off to keep on press coverage of yourself being an absolute dickhead. So get wrecked, Piers. I have no time for the man, and he irritates the fucking life out of me. Oh no. Was that corruption of the fight? Over an hour of film. I'm just going to do it for a few seconds. I'll put it in my watch later.
Evening, everyone. Hello. So we're going to start off with a couple of things that's been in the news this week, including one that's technically in the news, but it's not very prominent, about, again, the far right showing who they are, because the far...
Shut up, Phil. I will get back to you later. What part of the anatomy? And I can tell you how uncomfortable it might be. If it's in a very sensitive area, you didn't even need to say, but if it's somewhere above waist or anything, or round the back. Mine's were of my kidneys and my intestines and down to the internal lady area, if you wish. Go away, Phil. I will get back to you later. Oh, I don't know. I was just putting Jimmy the Giant. I don't know. He's left the Labour Party from what was that Carolina that said that? It's like happy birthday. I love that. I'll get back to you. I'll leave that there. Was it Kev or Helena that said that? The microphone in my laptop, because last year when I was a little bit drunk, I spilled some of my beer on it and it doesn't work that great. So you might not hear me. I have an actual microphone down there on one of the shelves, a bit at knee level. I can hook that back in. I've got my audio set up perfect now with these linked in and the speakers for you to still hear the video and stuff and still hear me. I might redo it and bring back my. I've also got a ring camera with a microphone in it as well. It's in the same position. It's down there on the shelf. I have no idea why he has left the Labour Party because he's starting to criticise them now. Oddly enough, it's taken him fucking long enough. We can maybe cover that tonight if we want, but I'll see what we're doing. A full hour and 7 minutes of Phil. Dear God, there's not enough drink in the world for me to get through that. But if we can get through at least half of it, I might be able to achieve it. Yeah. I'll redo it. I've got an audio specialist and an audio intelligent person who visits on my Twitch. I'll ask them, see if they can help me when they're free, when they're not at work, looking after their cats. Take it away, Jimmy.
This video is brought to you by Squarespace. A little over a year ago, I made a video called The Great British Class System Explained. And we went through the upper class, the middle class, the working class. However, the truth is, that understanding of the British class system is honestly a little bit out of date. Things have changed, right? There was a brand new update, Season 2 released, which flipped the whole British class system on its head. Middle class uni graduates out of work claiming benefits, and millionaire working class plumbers arguing against taxing rich people.
I'm very disappointed. I think it's a disgraceful decision.
And of course, a quiet ruling class behind the scenes, pulling the strings whilst we all fight each other. This new class dynamic of Britain has really affected politics, as society becomes increasingly divided and radicalised. So, today we will explore Britain's new class war. Class is one of those concepts that are both really simple and confusing.
Oh no, I love constructive advice and criticism, Super Tiny. Don't get me wrong, thank you. If anyone can actually help and give me other tips for anything else about my stream back, my setup, and how I approach things, carry on, post away in the chat. All the help I can get, because in tech setup, I know a bit, obviously, but I don't know everything. So any help anyone can give me, much appreciated. Would love it. Especially where my audio is concerned. I'm going to have to get an extra terabyte so I can maybe get play games this time and actually invite you all in, because there's a couple on my Steam wish list, well, my Steam account, and a few more on my wish list where I'd bring in crowd control and we can all play. I'd be the overseer, obviously. One of them is called King of the Castle. Feel free to look it up on Steam. It is amazing. I played it with Raptor. It's really quite fun. That and Jackbox TV. I was playing that last night with the Carol Keck, Raptor Blue, Cultivize, and Gnome Pickles and Peganox. And nearly one of us was fucking close. So if anyone wants out, I can't do Gartic. These are not good at drawing. I'm better at quiz type things and murder mystery typey things as well, but drawing, ooh, these hands won't allow it. Oh yeah, I can't be. I need to keep on meaning to change that. Okay. Thank you, Super Tiny. I'll ask Kev. I'll DM him. Or what's a DM would probably be easier, just DM him on Discord, and I can get him to help me if he's available, of course, and if he wants to. Maybe asking Helena as well. That might help.
At the same time. On one hand, we understand class as like culture and behaviour. Whether you pronounce your T's when you say Luton.
And I'm here today in Luton, voted the worst place to live in England.
Or whether you shop at Louis Vuitton or Primark. And that's all well and good, that's very interesting. But on the other hand, class is really about power and ownership. Do you control large swings?
I was just talking about you, Ash. Rejoice, rejoice. Unfortuitous Ash is here, my audio person. Hi, Ash. I'm a sounding. Jimmy the Giant, UK YouTuber, video essayist, if you wish. Jimmy's good. He is leftist. He did used to be alt-right. That video's fucking amazing, by the way. That Warwick. As I get with, these are GBLs. I got them at a discount. My black ones, which are sitting over there on a bookcase. kind of destroyed them. They won't hook up to my laptop anymore. These do. I use my black ones to hook up to my phone when I'm just listening to music and shit. That better? The one with the mic in it usually sits behind my ear so I don't sound too loud for him. If that's a little bit better. How have I got that set up actually? Wait a minute. Audio input. I need to put that and expand. I do have an expander on it. I do, yeah, it's sitting down on a shelf on my desk. It's right next to my knees actually. It's down there. Oh Snake. You hear Flo Snake? Rejoice! Flo Snake is here. Hi, Flo.
Waves of land? Do you control factories? Do you control machinery? Do you even control the orcs in your Ford Fiesta? And these two things are connected, right? Culture and also power. And seemingly every civilization in history has always had some kind of class system. But the thing is, the class system is never rigid. It evolves and changes based on the power dynamics of that era. So for a very long time in European history, in the medieval era, class was split along what they would call the free estates. You would have the nobles at the top, the priests in the middle, and then the peasants at the bottom. But you see, time passed, right? And this system was getting a bit boring. The player counts were dropping. So around about the 17th to 18th century, we released a brand new DLC called the Enlightenment Era.
Don't murder or steal.
Whoa! This new era completely flipped the class dynamics. Adam Smith, who's like, he's like Big Daddy capitalism. He was explaining that there was now a new hierarchy, a new class system where you had the land-owning aristocrats, you had the workers, but now you had the capitalists. But what was interesting is that the aristocrats and the capitalists, they weren't homies. Adam Smith himself, he despised landlords, right? He hated the aristocratic class because they made all of their wealth just simply by sitting back and taking rent from the workers that worked their land. Whereas the capitalists, they were the innovators, the risk takers, the wealth creators. And obviously the workers, yeah, they were doing the bitch work, but look, the capitalists were at least doing something. But this created a tension, right? Because the aristocrats, they were super like just up for chilling all the time. They really didn't like doing anything. They just liked vibing. And the capitalists were like, bros, that we could make machines that could make boats and we can fucking do cool stuff. Now, long story short, what happened was that this middle class of capitalists became wealthier than the aristocrats and eventually toppled them politically. And so, yeah, this class system, this rigid class system that had existed all throughout medieval Europe for hundreds and hundreds of years had now completely changed. The capitalists were now in charge. And so whilst all this history is unraveling before them, two bros by the name of Marx and Engels, they came to this conclusion that all of history, all of politics, is a continuing class struggle of different groups with different interests and their distance to the control of vital resources needed in an economy that creates these conflicts. And like these guys themselves were rich and smart, so they were using fancy French words to describe them. The bourgeoisie, basically rich people who owned the means of production, the factory and the machinery owners. And then you had the proletariat. These were your wage cocks, right? They just worked really hard jobs and all they had to make money was their labor. So they would sell their labor to the bourgeoisie. But you see, whilst Marx was analyzing this, these power dynamics, he noticed a very weird side character. Just a little side piece. These lot weren't aristocratic lords, nor were they factory tycoons. But, very importantly, they weren't wage cucks either. No, no, no. These were the shopkeepers, the market traders, the artisan, the small business owners, the petty bourgeois. The petty bourgeois, right? These were a curious bunch. And eventually, they would end up becoming a very powerful political pawn. They were like a strange quirk of capitalism, right? Typically, these were people who grew up working class or came from working class families.
Front room. Could you just come round a bit close? Come closer, because at these prices I can't afford to deliver.
However, they had managed to amass some wealth, a little bit of money, just enough to open some kind of small business. Now, for the most part, if you were born working class, that was it. Like, you worked for an employer, they chucked you down a chimney, you came out and they gave you like 1 pence. What defined them as working class was the fact that they had no ability to generate wealth themselves. All they could do was sell their labor to some rich bro for a wage. That was it. That's the deal. But not the petty bourgeois, no. These boys were nimble. They would find a little gap in the market, slot themselves right in there. Sure, you might have big chains like Sainsbury's that dominate the high street. However, Sainsbury's was only open 9 till 5. It wasn't really worth them being open late. It wouldn't make enough money. But for Peter the petty bourgeois, this was his moment. What if I just don't sleep? We can stay open all night. And like, yeah, Peter might not have the resources and the scale of the big chains, but what he has is something these big chains will never. The grind set.
It's 3:30 right now on a Monday night. I've been staying up all night working my new business. A few months from now, when my business is taken off, I'm going to be chilling in Dubai.
By Peter, because he's the boss of himself, he can just work as long as he wants. Work long hours into the night, maybe rope the wife and kids in and not pay them any wages. And this was the game plan, right? You know, just find those little gaps in the market that weren't worth it for these big chains to do. And so you take Peter and you multiply him by hundreds of thousands and you get a nation full of shopkeepers. This is the book recommendation for this video, by the way. Very good book. Put an affiliate link below. Couldn't have made this without this book, so check it out. And what was particularly interesting about this class of people was their status, like their ranking in the hierarchy of society. Because they're obviously not in the capitalist elite, but equally they didn't really fit in the working class.
What was the name of the program with Ronnie Barker as a shopkeeper, a shop owner? Open all hours. Fucking hell. Thanks. Late 70s, 80s, wasn't it? 80s. So, 1980s. And yeah, that was David Jason, you know, as well. As the shop boy, eventually the delivery driver on his bike. We have basket or a box delivering the shopping to people's house. Was that a butcher's bike? Thank you, babe. I never saw that. I did see paper boys and girls and stuff. Really? Yeah. Thanks, Zach. That was quite a common family dynamic in Glasgow. Irish, one Irish parent and one Afro-Caribbean, which is like, a lot of people during the Windrush era came up here to Glasgow because of the industry, loading and all that stuff, and that was quite common in certain parts of Glasgow. I'm from Perth. It is mostly what I look like, very white, very Protestant, mostly upper middle management or and lots of NHS workers, like my mum. Have you? Thanks, babe. You away? Can I get a hug before you go? Careful, camera on. Love you. See you later. I'll do that the other end. Night night. That that rug needs to go. There's a rug there's a bookcase on this wall here to my right, and there's a big bookcase with, my God, why did you put it up there? There's a wee pillar on top of this bookcase, which is about 3 feet higher than I can reach. He put the bookcase together and got it from Argos. And there's a rug that is just the edge of it is underneath my sofa and my coffee table, and it reaches to cover the door coming into the living room, and it keeps on getting rolled up and stuff, and the living room door keeps on getting caught. So before we watch Laura in the morning to see what our lovely Prime Minister has to say, should be fun. You know, we're going to take the rug out and put it into the centre of the living room where it should actually be, because we kind of keep getting the living room door getting stuck on it. Mm. Oh, you're over here. Thank you, Jim. You don't need to worry about Ash. Ash is good people. When you've got a moment tomorrow at some point, Ash, I might call you in and we can talk on Discord and maybe get this audio. Well, if it's, I do actually sound quite good. I might just leave it, or I might bring up my microphone or my ring light camera with speaker with mic in it as well, and see what sounds the best if we can get it set up. Rejoice, comrades! John the Brazen. Hi, John. Have your family check, full snake. One of my best friends when I was living in Clydebank, brilliant fucking rhythm guitarist. He's Czech. He was born in Czech when I was the Czech Republic. He's a year older than me. He was born in '78. He's good people. He is my kind of crazy. And bisexual like myself. But at that time he was actually dating like a guy, man. God, I miss him. I saw him during the pandemic out in the wild doing shopping in the city centre, oddly enough. He's doing well. So that was about 3 years ago or something. 3 years ago.
But they kind of had traits of both. Like the working class, they too still had to exchange their labor for money. But like the capitalist elite, they owned the fruits of their labor. They owned the means of their production. They might have even employed people. They would have been a boss. And when it comes to their culture, depending on what it is they did, they might be selling to the working class. So they were interacting with them daily. They might speak the same type of language and exhibit the same behaviors as them. But what kind of separated most of them is that they aspired for more than the working class did. Arguably, they were a little bit higher status than the average working class person. And that may be true, but they didn't have the luxury of the rich who inherited everything. Nah, they had to work for what they got. So yeah, it was pretty lonely for the petty bourgeois, right? They existed in this lonely in-between, not quite existing in the same worlds as the working class, but never truly accepted in the world of the bourgeois. So what would come of these people? Before we go any further with this video, I want to give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the #1 platform for building your own custom beautiful, amazing website. For me, the best bit is the cutting edge design tools. By using their Blueprint AI, anyone can have a perfectly customized and bespoke website. You can just tell the AI what your industry is, what your goals are for the website, and it will create a personally designed website filled with content and an amazing looking design. And from their award-winning templates, you can just pick and choose any of the designs that you like and really make your website stand out. A massive part of businesses these days is having an email marketing list so that you can send out things like product updates and events, etc. Squarespace allows you to make them as well as managing them and sending them out. Literally.
Oh, night night. Thanks, Zach. I'll catch you later. Stay hydrated, not necessarily with alcohol. Self-care is good care. Take your meds. Stay based. And I'll catch you later. Night night.
Any time in the past that I've needed to make a website, I've always used Squarespace. It's simple, easy to use, and enjoyable. So be sure to head to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And when you're ready to launch the website, go to squarespace.com/Jimmy the Giant to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Anyway, back to the video. So when Marx talked about these people, he wrote them off that they were just going to disappear over time. He assumed that the corner shop will eventually get swallowed up by the supermarket and the small artisan tool maker will eventually get crushed by factories and automation. But you see, my friends, that is not what happened. Instead of the bros disappearing, the petty bourgeois just kept respawning. Every time capitalism got some new update, the petty bourgeois would just find a new meta, new cracks in the market where they could squeeze in. And not only did this class of people survive, they would actually go on to become one of the most important political pawns. They would actually go on to become one of the most important political pawns in history. Because you see, when everything heats up and shit hits the fan, the economy's crumbling, and the workers are starting to get pissed at the bosses, historically speaking, it's this middle group, this petty bourgeois, which can tip the scale. And there is nowhere on earth where that has been truer than in Britain. Right, so after the war, 1945, Britain's power structure is fundamentally changed. We designed the system to balance the powers of the working class and of big capital. The working class was backed by powerful unions and collective bargaining, and the wealthy class had to play ball with nationalisation of certain industries, along with strict regulations of their own businesses and high taxes. And you would have the government there as like a referee on these two classes, who would manage the welfare state and plan these nationalised industries. And as well, there was the professional middle class, which we actually haven't talked about. So these were like the managers, the lawyers, the doctors, high skilled and very educated, so they earned good money. They would own homes and stuff like that. However, they were employed by big capital or the government in nationalised industries as well. They were workers, but they were obviously much wealthier than the working class. And then you had our bros, the petty bourgeois. They, in this time, still existed. These were the shopkeepers, the self-employed and the small business owners. And the post-war consensus period, this was a weird time for the petty bourgeois because they lived in like a twilight zone. You see, like life was improving for the working class. Their wages were rising, they had state guaranteed job security, and they had affordable council housing. And as well, the big businesses, they received protection from the government. They received subsidies. But the petty bourgeois, they had nothing. They were getting squeezed from both sides. Both the working class and the big capital were making life tough for them. The strong unions that protected the working class made it very expensive for petty bourgeois business owners to employ working class people. The high tax rates would eat into their profits. And equally, big capital was able to dominate markets. They could outcompete the petty bourgeois with supply chains, scale, and mass production. And also, they could directly lobby the government for preferential treatment. So if you think about like the artisan woodworker who might spend a week carving some perfect chair, like, he loved the quality of his products, he has to compete against the guy who owns a factory, who can just click a button and it'll shit out a chair. And it was a weird time for them because the morality or the consciousness of Britain was that of like a solidarity and a strong focus around workers, and equally of what is called one nation Tories or like paternal conservatism, the idea that the wealthy should look after the poor. And like whilst that was true and that was the morality of the time, after the war Britain was drastically changing. These working class people had more money to spend in the economy, meaning that small businesses could pop up and sell them stuff. And by the 50s, you even get this subculture called the mods, which, I mean, basically was a subculture of just consumerists. These were young people with excess money spending it on clothes, mopeds, music records, etc. And so over time, this culture of like working class struggle was becoming less of a struggle, right? Things were improving. And so when the 70s would roll around and post-war Britain would collapse, with oil shocks, strikes, 3-day work weeks, the Cold War, this balance of the past between these classes were getting out of hand. The state, the big capitalists, the working class unions were all at war with each other. And ever so quietly, as this war raged, the petty bourgeois, the small business owner, they were starting their own war. As they were struggling too, and no one was really giving a shit about them. They were facing high taxes, high regulation, but also, because working class people weren't having enough money to spend due to the economic problems, they were facing a fall in consumer demand. Because of inflation, their supply chains were becoming more and more expensive. And unlike the big businesses, they didn't have the scale and the capital to survive these massive economic shocks. They weren't granted the protections from the government. And so there they were, trapped amongst this conflict between the unions, the state, and big businesses, with no one to represent them. Until...
Thank you. We believe you get a society which is responsible when you get who are responsible.
Maggie Thatcher, she was different, right? Yeah, she was a Tory, but she wasn't an aristocrat. She didn't come from the industrial elite either. And she definitely wasn't a high-ranking union leader. No, Margaret Thatcher was the humble daughter of a grocer in Grantham. She knew what it was like to run a small business. She literally grew up stocking shelves, watching and helping her dad as he was balancing the books, making sure to not overspend, and eventually taking that wisdom all the way to number 10 Downing Street. She was a self-made girl boss. Sort of. I mean, she did marry like a really, really, really rich man, and a really, really well-funded think tank basically cooked her up and turned her into this politician. But don't worry, rags to riches. But yeah, this backstory to Thatcher, she played on it endlessly. And like, yeah, it was kind of petty bourgeois cosplay, but it was very convincing. And it was enough to make millions and millions of small go-getters believe that she's one of us. She gets it. And you can hear it in like the kind of things she would say. She would always bang on about,
There is no such thing as public money. There is only taxpayers' money.
This idea that your hard-earned tax is being wasted on these lazy bureaucrats and these welfare scroungers. She pushed the idea of like popular capitalism, which was her way of selling shares of private companies to ordinary people, turning everyone into a mini capitalist with their own portfolio. And most importantly, the right to buy.
Rejoice, comrades, Antifa Cog. Hi, Cog. Better known as Ben McLean. Who gets invited onto GB News. Hi, Cog. Welcome, welcome. Everyone, go and follow Turn Left. They're based, and they're fucking awesome. Welcome. Please be, we have based individual in chat. Welcome in, Cog, by the way. Good to see you here. Oh, wait. Jimmy the Giant video. Hi. You have reached the Mad Cow or Katie Marshall stream. I'll do my spiel for you since you're new here. My name is Katie Marshall 4340 on YouTube or MadCat79 Scotty Eye on Twitch. I'm a Scottish disabled Marxist streamer. I talk about politics, health and disability issues, and other health related things, as well as history and anything funny that pops up. I'm also an enjoyer of books. I read, and comic books and anime.
This was a policy that allowed tenants of council houses to buy their council house off of the government for a massively discounted rate. Home ownership being the...
Oh, okay, I'm a benefit of this, by the way. My mum, the flat that she had that we lived in when I was growing up in Perth well, we lived up there. I started school in one house when I was 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 roughly, about a few weeks short of a month. 4.5 years old. But properly, we moved to the house that my mum got through right to buy. She got it for £27,500. There was me and my two sisters and mum in a two-bedroom flat about 10 minutes walk away from my primary school. So my mum was a beneficiary of Right to Buy. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to slate Right to Buy to the nth degree because it shouldn't have fucking happened, and the other constraints that Thatcher put on it because she's a fucking ghoul. They couldn't refund that. They couldn't put that back in and build more council houses. They weren't allowed to do that. But if they did do that, they would get their look at their government funding cut because you can't do social housing. You can't build council houses because that creates poor people, and that is verboten apparently, according to that Aggie. Thatcher, fuck off, you fucking bitch. I despise you with every fibre of my being. I hope you are burning.
Hallmark of the middle class dream, and these discounted houses gave them the illusion of moving up in the world. Self-help, self-reliance, and personal responsibility. This was the moral worldview of every corner shop owner, of every one-man band builder going at it alone. And she really installed this attitude amongst the British people of like the strivers versus the skivers, which gave this moral framing that
same people. Literally the way it was defined even back then, and under Cameron's the Book Society or that bollocks, they're the exact same people like me. Luckily, through not needing to pay to go to uni, thank God, amazing, no student fees based, and excellent because Scotland and SNP. Woohoo. Cheated. Well said, Cock. Until I get myself a little bit more polished, I will send you a video and you can maybe invite me on. Not entirely knowledgeable about it. I've got my degree and everything. I can basically, you can think of me as like it's a little bit lower than Helena. Obviously, Kev, Demo, and Helena and Norfolk, fucking amazing people, and yourself included, Ben. I have my takes, obviously. Some of them might not necessarily be based, but they're my takes. They're my opinions. I don't lie about them. There's no point. At least not in this.
striving and fighting for your lot in life is morally noble, and people who didn't do that were below you. Those who had to rely on the state for work and for housing. These were these infantilized children suckling the teat of the state.
I believe that we were going towards a way of life in which people were constantly looking to the state to solve their problems and to do things for them.
Which, you know, if we compare this mentality to that of the post-war period, was considerably different. Almost the opposite. But Thatcher's moral framework was speaking to a new type of Brit that was emerging in this post-war economic context. The idea that there is no such thing as society, is every man for themselves.
Some socialists seem to believe that people should be numbers in a state computer. We believe they should be individuals.
And her plan worked. Thatcher managed to turn a class that Marx thought was going to go extinct into an electoral army, as she gave birth to what would be known as the Essex Man. The phrase Essex Man was first coined by Simon Heffer, who wrote in the Sunday Telegraph in the 90s about this new phenomena, the Essex Man, who was the archetype of Thatcher's success. The Essex Man was sort of described as this working class voter who had bought their council house, who owned a car, who felt proud of their own independence, who had deserted Labour in exchange for Margaret Thatcher. The Essex Man was someone who really believed in going after and getting it themselves, rather than relying on collectivism. Often the Essex Man was some kind of like tradesman, or maybe like a salesman. These are like your Del Boy characters. They were working class in origin. Usually they would be the child of a Labour voting industrial worker who was starting to do quite well and really liked when Mrs. Thatcher would talk about low taxes. They bought into the idea that the unions were dragging down the country, and they were very proud about the fact that they had risen in class and that they had made it. They now owned their own home, unlike their dad did. They were like the political defectors of the old Labour movement. But you see, by the 90s, right, Thatcher's no longer in power, but this archetype managed to live on. When Tony Blair and New Labour came around the 90s, they needed their own version. And so Tony Blair invented the Mondeo Man. The Mondeo Man was basically the Essex man with a polished job. They were probably a bit more suburban, a bit more Middle England, but maybe a little bit less brash, less Thatcherite, and less reactionary. And from here, right, this archetype would grow in significance.
Mondeo Man is being wooed by UKIP, and this week, should Rochester fall, they claim the purple tide could sweep the whole of North Kent.
So you might hear all that, think it's very interesting, but maybe you're wondering, how are they so significant? You know, between the 1980s to 2000s odd, the self-employed only made up about 12 to 14% of the population. How can they be so important politically? But this is the thing, right? The petty bourgeois are like the ultimate swing voter. Them boys can really go either way. And that's because they're a little bit insecure, right? On one half, they deeply fear sliding back into the working class, but equally, they're always dreaming to one day enter the elite class. This instability makes them very volatile, and you can never really assume which way they're going to vote. Historically, they sometimes swing to the left, demanding better worker protections, siding with the unions, even sometimes backing revolutions. But other times, they will swing to the right, reactionary, authoritarian, desperate to protect what little property they managed to get in life. And this isn't just theory, this is a pattern that does exist for...
I don't actually have, it depends what you mean by property owning people. Technically, what I'm streaming on is property. I own this. I have a television. I own that. I've paid for it, or we paid for it. I paid for this myself without using household funds. So this is all mine, all my setup. I own it. It is my stuff. The books are a little bit odd. A good portion of them are mine. A good portion of them are Super Hubby's. They're all of our books, but they're kind of split. He has more than me. I have better books than him, in my opinion. But well, obviously, whatever you read is subjective. Depends on what sort of interest you have. God damn it. Stay there, Hela. All right. Oh, it's still true, though. Truth gets pinned instead of baseness. Well, technically, kind of based. I like the origin of saboteurs. That's quite fun, that story. Don't get me wrong, and after a fashion, I'm still slightly under my mum's thumb. I'm my own person, obviously, but where certain things within the family are concerned, still kind of defer, kind of rely on her a bit. Obviously, she's my mum, however. Yeah. Well, Snake is awesome.
Throughout history. I mean, in 1930s Germany, petty bourgeois were like a key part in Hitler's rise to power. Shopkeepers, clerks, small business owners and farmers, these were people who were terrified of losing their status during the Great Depression. And the Marxist left, they really didn't like the petty bourgeois. They called them the mass base of fascism because they would side with the Nazis against the organized working class. But equally, interestingly, also didn't like big capital, or like, a very specific subsect of Jewish big capital. So it meant that politically they worked to protect the interests of big capital, but it was really like a relationship of convenience. Scared that the organized working class will come for them, they would put their difference aside from the capitalist elite and kind of join forces. And it's this instability, the insecurity, that the ruling class has long known how to manipulate. This deep anxiety that many of the petty bourgeois have into falling back into the working class. And so when
Great joys, comrades. Sozzled Snake is here. Hi, Sozzled. Two snaky comrades in the chat. Fucking awesome. Hi, Sozzled. How you doing? Welcome, welcome. We have Antifa Cog. Hope you're doing well. Welcome in. Jimmy the Giant video. I do like the title, The Coming British Class War. You never know, you might see me on the front lines, or at least trying to dig a ditch between Scotland and England. Might take me a while, but fuck it. If Farage gets put in number 10, I will fucking start digging the ditch myself. To any Scottish comrades living down in England, if you want back up now before I dig this ditch, come up now. Come up in the next three years. Because there ain't no way I'm going to fucking survive with that in number 10. I'll just say that now.
Times are tough, the economy's tanking, their business is struggling, they will channel their resentment downward toward migrants, toward welfare claimants, towards unions demanding better worker protections, rather than upward towards those who are hoarding the wealth. They can be coerced by the ruling class to be like, hey look guys, you're one of us. What's that? You own a little corner shop? Man, I get it. Yeah, it's tough, right? I own Sainsbury's. But in reality though, the petty bourgeois are like these in-betweeners. Fucked from both sides. Like if a government wants to raise taxes on the wealthy, the politicians can make special carve-outs and schemes so that the very wealthy can avoid it, but the small business owner is the least mobile. They can't tax avoid like someone who can afford to open a shell company in the Cayman Islands. Politicians might do something like taxing second homes, which kills private landlords, but it probably won't affect the big developers and the corporate landlords, who, you know, they'll find a way to restructure the ownership through shell companies or do massive bulk purchase deals, and somehow they'll find a way to sidestep the tax. But it's exactly this reason why they're so useful politically, because they don't have the organized collective power that the working class can have, nor do they have the lobbying powers or protections that the elite wealthy class has. And so they can often be loud, angry, and motivated by the fear of losing what little that they have achieved, so they can become instrumental in things like Thatcher smashing the unions, or cutting the welfare state and cutting taxes for the rich. So it'd be in the 2000s, right, where the perception of the petty bourgeois would change once again. And this was as the tabloid coined the new phrase, the white van man.
Not
In
this
the
one.
hunt for new customers, Britain's white van men are entering uncharted waters.
This phrase was first used in 1997. It was later popularized by
Comrades, does white van man still exist? I can do a poll for it, or I can just ask you and you can say yes or no in the chat. My opinion, does white van man still exist? To a certain extent, I would say yes. Depends on what sort of socioeconomic area you want to put them in. I would say yes. White van man is still a thing. Ding, 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 ding. Round one. Suzzled Snake goes up against Nightbot. Have fun, Suzzled. Ooh. Ding, ding. Time out. Round one to Suzzled.
the Sun and Top Gear, and it was slightly more of a negative than the Mondeo man. Often it was used to describe like a self-employed builder or plumber, or, you know, a delivery man in his van who is loud, opinionated, entrepreneurial, and often very politically reactionary.
My big question tonight, why is this tweet, which I thought looked completely harmless when I first saw it, responsible for the biggest political scandal in Britain today?
The white van...
Rejoice! Trout with Clout is here. Hi, Trout. Welcome, welcome. You're named after one of my favourite fish. Very delicious. Well, unfortunately, some people do love this tricks. Some people are related to tricks, unfortunately. You can choose who your friends are. You can't choose who your family are, unfortunately, for obvious biological reasons. And you can, well, if you have the money, you can choose not to live with someone. But if you can't afford to find somewhere else to live, you get a mortgage or go to a different flat and pay either the same or more rent. That is a consequence of capitalism. Way, fucking love it. It's amazing. Luckily, I've never had to live with anyone that I didn't like. I had flatmates when I lived in Clydebank. They were quite cool. One was an artist, one was a keyboardist and bassist. He was quite cool. And at one point, I lived with my sister and her then girlfriend and now wife. I liked it. It was cool. I had a 4-bedroom flat in Clydebank, council flat and all. Don't get me wrong, Western Berkshire Council did suck in many, many different ways. But at least I had a kind of decent sized flat and a rather large living room and decent kitchen. And a gas cooker. I was prolific at baking in that flat. But you can't always choose who you're. Take that, our eventual AI overlords. Over my dead body. Puzzled. Seriously. I will fight it. Even I have to go and metaphorically scalp Elon across the face for creating Mecha Hitler. Grok, what the fuck? I don't know what sort of coding went into Grok, but fucking hell, it's madness.
Man was the new reskin, and they were less about Thatcher's aspirational dream and more about like cultural grievance, Euroscepticism, political correctness gone mad. And this is because of New Labour, right? Which is this weird mishmash of politics called the Third Way, where you have a movement of people who are like socially progressive. It might champion women's rights, gay marriage, etc. But economically, they're very much similar to Thatcher. Big business, growth, free market, etc. So the white van man...
Socially liberal, but economically conservative. Socially liberal and economically social as well. Obviously, Marxist here and eco-socialist. Why would I be socially conservative? I'm a disabled bisexual Marxist. Remember your intersections, folks. Yeah, I'm noticing that as well in certain online media areas and spaces. There is people that we can actually rescue with like lots of American comrades as well. We can actually get people on the fringes, on the edges of this, not your completely fucking lunatics. We're never going to get them. They're a lost cause. Just leave them alone. Obviously, James O'Brien isn't like that. He's not a right winger at all. He's a horrible, he's just stupid fucking liberal centrist. James O'Brien's a lost cause. Just fucking leave him alone. Don't get me wrong. I still fucking laugh at him. And that hour long video of Helena basically just laughing at him and pointing out where he's wrong and where he's being disingenuous. God, I love that video so much. It's amazing. He is lost cause, and so still we might be able to get Graham Hughes, and we might be able to get Femi if we stop if we can get him to stop concentrating on Brexit so much. In other areas, he is rather based. I've got a lot of time for Femi. I'm sitting on the fence about Bowler Hatman really. Phil Morehouse is a lost cause. Just don't interact with him if you like. I won't. I will show him on stream. I'll go and post a comment in under the videos that I use saying I borrowed this from my stream. I can take that section out. I can edit it out if you wish. But so far I've used him twice and I've said under the comments in the comments that I've done that and he's never responded back, so I've just picked it up. One was fucking last year at some point, and one was when Zach became leader. So he might get back to me on that if he wants me to take it out. I can cut it out of the live stream that I've done about it. But now he's got a new one, and I'll do the same again. If he wants me to take it out, I will take it out. But being able to react to Phil and actually decode or debunk what he's saying. Obviously, I'll try not to look too much into his mind for obvious reasons. Please don't try to read into people and their actions at times. Obviously, some of them are overt, you can see it, it's clear as day. But try not to try and decode too much and go over it in your head too much. I can do the I can do the disconnect. I can react to it and I can say blah 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 blah, not incorrect blah blah blah. That's your opinion. Make just say that is my opinion.
And was portrayed as being sort of stuck in the past. It was the kind of voter who might have supported UKIP, who might have voted for Brexit, who then might have voted for Boris Johnson and now supports Nigel Farage and Reform. And so this class of people, right, they've gone up and down in public opinion many times, is in some ways kind of running the show right now politically, or at least having heavy influence. So many of this group can speak with a working class accent. But when I say a working class accent, I mean the classic Cockney geezer working class accent.
My name is Turkish. Funny name for an Englishman, I know.
This accent is sort of archetypal to the old understanding of the British working class. But you got to remember, as a significant amount of these people did well for themselves financially, many of them ended up moving away from those working class towns that they grew up in, making enough money to buy some, you know, fancy gaff in a town called Wiggleswood. And what this did, right, this movement of like the traditional white working class Brit out from those original towns, well, it left both an economic and cultural hole in the modern British working class. That class actually started to move away from those types of jobs. Often they would stay in the trades industry. However, they very often became much more specialized. Many trained to become like self-employed electricians, plumbers, you know, who had to go through qualifications and get trained. They had moved away from carrying bricks.
Exactly, yeah. I get that. Obviously, I make that clear. That's my opinion as well. Obviously, you white working class women, disabled, Marxist, all. Yeah, being able to actually call them out for the fucking what that was the first and last time I voted for Labour. Obviously it wasn't the Blair's constituency. I can't remember now what it was. Fuck. I can't remember what fucking city had. I said. Can't. But when I voted in the general election in '97, I was in Clydebank, and my MP, for those who are Scottish or who are interested in read up on Scottish politics, my MP at the time, the one I actually voted for, was Jackie Baillie, and as far was second in command. Hey, Jackie, Scottish Greens and the SNP are coming for your seat, by the way. Good luck. I can't remember what our fucking seat is now. Christ's sake. I know the constituency for Westminster for where I used to live in Clydebank, but I don't know what the Holyrood one is. Give me a second. I will tell you. Jackie Baillie. Deputy leader, acting leader, yeah, we know before fucking Anna's got voted in. Is it important? What's my previous seat? Oh, I keep on forgetting that. Jackie Baillie was actually born in Hong Kong in 1964. Oh, she went to Strathclyde. I didn't fucking know that. Let's go here. local economic development. Interesting, interesting. So it was West Clydebank and Dumbarton that I was voting in. That's a big constituency from where I lived to where Dumbarton was. That's like it's 4.5, 5 miles or something. I didn't actually realise how big that fucking constituency was. Mental.
Around a construction site, now they were installing underfloor heating, complex wiring, opening their own construction companies. And as demand grew for more and more specialised building and trade skills, these lot could demand higher and higher salaries. And so as they moved...
You're in the same category as Helena then. She voted Lib Dem in 2010. I didn't, I voted SNP. Clegg hoodwinked a lot of people up here in Scotland and in England and in parts of Wales. Obviously, they deserved to be booted in 2015. They deserved it. That's why they went down to one, I repeat, one MP here. And it was Alistair Carmichael for Orkney and Shetland. And he is still there, moulding away in the House of Commons. Still looks the same. And still a wanker, essentially. With any luck, he'll get voted out in 2029. He was one of the ones that survived, obviously. So, are you away, Ben? Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Cog, for dropping by. A pleasure. Thank you. Feel free to come back anytime you see me live. Stay hydrated. Well, this is Dosing Lemon. Self-care is good care. Take your meds. Stay based. And I'll catch you later. Night, night. Oh, look. My uncle could be described as petty bourgeoisie. He owns his own business. He is a painter and decorator by trade. He actually did quite a lot of the work. Before, when he was working for the main sort of painting and decorating and house remodeling companies up in Perth, then he started his own business. He has 8 employees. He does quite well. He has a regular contract with Perth and Cumnock City Council to do painting and decorating for the council buildings, essentially their offices and shit like that. He does quite well for himself. He has actually physically stopped working because of heart issues. He's had 3 bypasses. Dear God, Uncle, don't work, just sit back and relax and don't upset Auntie. His wife, my auntie, she is a nurse. She probably has discussions with him. He keeps on wanting to go back into work. He's in his 60s, for fuck's sake. Just relax, man. If you do that, I will boot you from my community, John. You are warned. Technically, I'm petty bourgeoisie because I'm earning off this platform. I'm not earning off of YouTube yet because it's incredibly difficult to get AdSense. You have to get up to fucking 5 million watch hours. How the no, that's shorts. 100,000 watch hours from what I put up on YouTube. I have reached 500 watch hours. Rejoice for that. I am happy. Like getting up to 100,000 YouTube, you're fucking mental. Yes, a major heart attack when he was in his 40s, about 20, I was still quite young, 25 or 26 years ago. And he went to the Royal Jubilee, which is in Dalmuir, part of Clydebank, to get this first bypass. One of them's a double bypass, which he needed 5 years later, and the last one was just before the pandemic, about 8 years ago. So no, I asked my auntie how he's doing, and I just say to him, just get mum to annoy him as well. Oh, don't worry, your mum's actually talking to him. So no, just don't, Uncle, insert name here of your wish. Just don't, just leave it to your second in command. Just he's fine doing that. You just need to do the books, which he does, and he's got obviously things on his computer in his house to do all that stuff, all the documentation and finance, tax and money side of it's all on the computer in the house, essentially. He just needs to sit back and relax. Maybe help design people what they want for their living room, kitchen, their entire house if they wish. Just don't physically go out and do it, just leave it. Yeah, the first one was a, a big one. We were kind of worried at times. Part of it, he was in the hospital for about 3.5 weeks after that heart attack. Again, in his 40s.
Into these jobs, this hole ended up being eventually filled by the newly emerging multicultural British working class. This meant that increasingly, the classic Cockney geezer London working class accent, the same accent that in the past was associated with football hooliganism and the Sun, increasingly is associated with BMW driving plasterers with a buy-to-let on the side.
When I sold the company was, in 2021, and it was about 140 odd mil. And it sounds a lot of money, and no doubt it is, but I've been spending it on.
Hang on, what car is that? Oh, it's a roller. Okay. That looks kind of boxy. I'm trying to think what kind of roller that is. I would have put British racing green or black, or maybe a nice sleek grey or silver. Not that sort of. Don't get me wrong, I love the colour blue, but on a Rolls Royce, that looks a bit out there. Just saying.
140 odd mil, and it sounds a lot of money, and no doubt it is, but I've been spending it on celebrating and enjoying life, really. I've had some amazing holidays in Dubai and staying in the Al Burj Arab, which is about 125 grand, for a few weeks. Rolls Royces, Bentleys, private jets, flying backwards and forwards, and then property. But I probably thinking back on it, I would say the best thing that I've spent my money on over the years was this penthouse flat that I have on the river.
But what I find really interesting is their relationship to the traditional British middle class and how the British middle class looks down on this sort of petty bourgeois sometimes. Much in the very same way that the old aristocratic classes would look down on the capitalists and the industrialists, even when the industrialists were starting to do better.
Rejoice, comrades. James Holmes is here. Hi, James. No, there's a history of heart disease on my mum's side of the family. Unfortunately, there is genetic issues connected with heart problems and stuff like that, and families all over the world, obviously. But yeah, the main contributor was stress, and he was working too much because he started when he was young. He started training to be a painter and decorator when he was 15. Anyway, that was his career progression, joining a major firm when he was 19 or 20. This would have been when I was, hang on, 54, almost 60 or something. 60. Yeah, I would have just been born when he got taken on by a major paint and decorating firm up in Perth when he was probably closer to his 20th birthday. His birthday's in March. Same as me, nothing enough. But yeah, he took on that Protestant work ethic from his dad, my granddad, and basically nearly killed himself when he was in his mid-40s. My mum got on to him about that. She was literally yelling at him because she went and picked me up and she drove straight to their house after he got back out of the hospital after that. And I went into the kitchen with my auntie so we could make tea and get biscuits and cakes and stuff sorted, and we could actually hear my mum yelling at her younger brother. That was an odd one when you're I was what age would I have been? I would have been 17 or something, 16. I was 16, I was just about to leave school and I was helping my auntie make tea and coffee. Hearing my mum yell at my uncle. That was an interesting time. I asked my auntie, how old is she going to be? Yelling at him. Just let her be. It's always fucking fly, yeah. Socialix. Socialix. Rejoice, comrades. Socialix is here. Hi. I'm loving this. I'm seeing all my favourite people in my actual chat instead of Kev or Elena's. Hi. That was a weird one. And I remember talking to Manny about it, saying, is that going to go on for a while? Probably. Just better get to it. She's better at it. Don't get me wrong, we're both nurses, and we both kind of talk to him about how much he actually works. He did come down, but he still carried on being a paint and decorator and not fucking doing too much. We're talking working 60 plus hours a week. Not healthy for anyone in any sort of industry, any sort of work sphere. Just don't no working over 60 hours a week. Yeah, quick and easy way to put yourself into an early grave, in my opinion. Especially with hard manual labour like painting and decorating. So look, that sort of side of work life, like painting and decorators, electricians, plumbers, scaffolders, builders, things of that nature. Doing all that, you are literally going to put yourself into either the hospital or into a wooden box before you reach 55 essentially. And some of my uncle's friends at the time that he worked with, that's what they done. One of them died when he was what my age is now, 46. Massive fucking heart attack. His heart literally imploded, leaving behind 3 kids and a wife. And they were all still in school. They were all younger than me.
Than the aristocrats.
I've seen some of my friends who I felt I was on a level and same plane as disappear over the last few years. So I feel that a lot of the people in my level of the middle class, there is no promotion to go to. The ones that went up were mainly in banking, and I'm actually being paid less than I was 10 years ago.
Right, so think about the classic middle class route in life. Go to a decent school in a safe area, then you go to university, get a degree, land a good white collar job in your dad's company, and then you eventually climb the ladder and you get a very comfortable lifestyle. This route, right, you know, the university into office job, this was the route that they were told to do, the middle class, and also increasingly kids of working class parents. However, this deal recently has started to break down. Firstly, wages since the financial crash just flatlined. They stopped growing. All whilst inflation and house prices just fucking shot up. Owning a home, which was the ultimate badge of middle classery, has become borderline impossible for many young, educated professionals who work office jobs. On top of that, debt has exploded. Whilst middle class kids' parents would have bought their house in their 20s, the modern middle class has racked up thousands and thousands in student debt just to get a degree, then to go and shell half of their wages out on rent every single month. And this trend is pretty mad because, like, my generation are one of the most educated generations ever. A historic 50% of young people achieved first entry into higher education in 2017. But the
working class background, started doing university 23 years ago in 2002. Had to leave in third year. Just before, literally, I started my third year in September and I had to quit before Christmas. So I was there for about two and a half, maybe 3 months. And because of my health, I said I had to walk away. Oh, I'm going. I've actually got my ticket. I'm getting on a bus, which is going to take an hour and a half because the M8 sucks. But I'm physically going to the conference. Oh, do you want to see how sad I am? And that. Ah! Love so I can actually talk to people and record it with their permission, of course. I'm debating on whether to take my laptop. I'll see how I'm feeling. Scotch Greens. John McIntyre Conference Centre in Edinburgh, just down from the Commonwealth Pool. And some lovely, I can't remember who it was now. Oh, they live in Edinburgh. I was in Helena's chat. I was asking them. And he said, what buses to get from St Andrew's Square in Edinburgh to get down to it? Oh, it's going to be good. Yes, you are totally correct, Full Snake. Totally correct. Yeah, I know it's in Brighton. So England is a bit too big, isn't it? So you're in the Bradford area, aren't you? So getting down from Bradford into Brighton, especially the amount of money that you have to pay for your travel anywhere between like cities and towns and places like that. Absolutely fucking crazy prices. We can't we've the concept of peak travel on Scottish Rail, Scotland rail travel doesn't exist. Plain gone. One of the best things, obviously, Scotland based. We've done lots of good shit here. And we're just sitting, I feel for all my English comrades, I really do. You're literally chatting from a great height, essentially, which sucks. Literally sucks. I'll say in a loving tone, if you want to, move up here if you can, if it's feasible, if it's economically possible for you to move up here. I would encourage you to do so. Obviously, you don't need to listen to this lunatic. But I'd love for all of you to move for all of you to move up here. I'd love it. Scotland is amazing. Plus, it's absolutely gorgeous up here. Sorry about the weather though. That's about the one aspect that I struggle with Scotland. No, I can fucking change the weather, of course. I just have to live with it. Don't get me wrong, there's parts of England get the same weather as us. Yeah. It is, unfortunately. Hopefully that'll change now that Zach's in charge. Fingers crossed. It's good that you in Bradford. We've got Reza in the northeast as well, which is good. I'm trying to remember who else is in that sort of area. Plus we've got Kev in Birmingham. Always good. Fucking amazing. I'm trying to think who we've got in sort of the Manchester area. As friends Rust. He's there. Elron. Wallacey. You don't like Sittle. Feel free to explain what's wrong with Selby. Generally, I'd generally love to know. Or you can post links in the Discord if you want to, John.
Graduate wage premium, like the expected amount more money you should make because you have a degree.
I say graduate employment, 87%. Some graduate high school employment rate, 67%. Graduate medium nominal salary, 40,000. That is not enough. That is crap. God, I can't tell because it's behind Jimmy's head. Graduate premium medium real term salary. Oh, what? It used to be 8,000. It's now 6.5. Graduate gender median term. Fucking hell. There's 6,000 difference in the gender wage gap, even for graduates. That fucking sucks. Oh, your way, James. Yeah, I love being soaked to the bone as well. Like today when I had to go out to get my ultrasound this afternoon. I really don't do well in the cold and damp and shit like that. It goes like through me. My bones ache. I can't walk properly at the best of times, even in sunny weather. So when it's cold and damp and raining or stoating it, just no, fuck, I can't be arsed. It hurts. Is it insular? Oh dear God. A lot of places are insular, don't get me wrong. Lots of insular places up here in Scotland. There's probably insular places in Wales, obviously. There is the odd arsehole every now and again, obviously. Arsehole is a trait across the globe. It is KDD indeed. Thank you, James. Good night. Stay hydrated. Self-care is good care. Take your meds if you're taking any. Stay based. And I'll catch you later. Bye, James. Carry on, Jimmy.
Is falling. And that's because there are loads of educated graduates who are all chasing a very limited pool of graduate jobs in this country. That competition drives wages down and forces many into underemployment.
Don't get me wrong. If I was able to do it and if I had the funding for it, I would have went on and done a PhD in my chosen area of now my degree, my area of expertise, which would be virology and parasitology. I would have worked and went and done my master's and then eventually got my PhD. But actually getting that, you have to fund it yourself. You can either go to your government, be it Westminster or Holyrood, or you have to sell your soul and get a pharmaceutical company to actually do proper academic research in my chosen area. And I'm not going to sell my soul to a fucking pharmaceutical company. Get the fuck. No. I'd rather get funding from the either Westminster or Holyrood. And at the time when I graduated last year, they weren't looking for anyone because in their eyes the pandemic was over and all the research, all the major research was already done. Which sucks. And I wasn't about to sell my soul to get funding from a pharmaceutical company or some medical research conglomerate. But a few do exist here in Scotland, especially here in Glasgow, and the brilliant the biosciences essentially at Strathclyde, my alma mater. So, not going to do it. I've still got my expertise, obviously, in my undergraduate degree and stuff. So, and I can help people, I can educate, I can show people how viruses actually work and what you can do, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. I would have loved to have been able to study the actual viruses that are plaguing society, plaguing the world essentially, and it's probably going to get worse under climate change the more we actually destroy the planet. These viruses, there's going to be more viruses, by the way, in my opinion. Just my opinion. Obviously, I can show you studies and stuff where people, the actual proper virologists and parasitologists and epidemiologists agree with me on that take. There's a good few of them across the globe.
Meanwhile, on the opposite side, trades like plumbing, electrical work, construction work, these careers face chronic labour shortages. We never have enough people to fill them. And all you need to do is go and get a qualification. Like, it's hard, but you can do it. And once you've got the qualification, the competition for work is way smaller and the pay can be very high. So right now we're in this bizarre inversion of the past where very often the specialised plumber, electrician can sometimes out-earn the graduate office workers. Whilst the graduate probably has a much higher ceiling of potential earnings, the competition to get there is much higher. Arguably, the tradesman can probably secure a higher paying job quicker, all whilst having started work earlier. They could start as early as 18 and don't have the weight of student debt. In other words, what I'm trying to say is the cultural middle class, the uni-educated, white-collared professional, their status in society is declining. Whereas the geezer on the tools, his status is climbing.
There's no easy way to say this. We made a pledge, we didn't stick to it, and for that I am sorry.
And what is
Fuck off, Nick Clegg. You sided with what I class as the scumbag party at that point in time. Obviously, they're politically and electorally dead, in my opinion. Mind you, they've made comebacks in the past, but I seriously doubt they're going to make a comeback this time because Manfrog and his band of merry fucking lunatics exists now. Don't get me wrong, they still existed back in the past as well. They've fully existed in one way, shape, or form from when I started voting, so from the late 90s onwards, those kind of people did exist. They existed in the Tory party as well, back in the day, even during Thatcher's time. But I think the Tories are essentially dead. We'll see if Kemi gets booted in November. That'll be fun to see. I will sit here laughing gleefully, like giggling like a fucking lunatic when if she gets booted. And I suspect I will make it clear now, if they do get rid of her, I'm saying Bobby Jenrick or Phil will be the two main candidates. I don't see Cleverly or Stride throwing their hats into the ring. I really don't. Whenever I've seen James Cleverly recently over the last sort of since the election last July, he is just basically looking dejected. You can see the absolute no full-on depression, just utter. He's lost the will to fight for the Tory party at this point, in my opinion. You can tell just by looking at him on the telly when you see him every now and again, or in the House of Commons during PMQs. He is a whole shell of a politician, whole shell of a human. I really do feel for James Cleverly. Obviously, he's still a Tory, still a bastard, but you can see he has lost faith. Mel's right to a certain extent. He still kind of believes, but I think he's mostly checking out as well. You are quite correct. You are quite correct, socialists. That's what I'm worried about. My area of expertise was sub-Saharan Africa and the Far East, like in Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, places like that. Tropical climates, like dense, thick, arboreal jungle, essentially, where I'm thinking, and people fleeing from the islands because of the rising seas, rising waters. Lots more people cutting down lots more arboreal forests and things of that nature is going to release them. In my opinion, I suspect you are correct, especially with the melting polar ice caps. We'll wait and find out. I will keep you so posted on that because I read papers every so often when they get released, every sort of 6 months to 18 months, they all get released. Some of them get released. You have to pay for them. They're like 30 quid or something. But I get mine sent to me by my GP. He sends them to me because he knows I'm interested in it was my area of expertise. And he sends them to me because Dr. Verma is based. I love him. So he lets me know if anything's getting released, or he gives me like short PDFs and stuff that I can read up on. And keep you well informed. Because it is always good to know if there's going to be another pandemic or anything. Or if you're going to a certain area for like a holiday or for work reasons or whatever, to know that this might be this is a possibility. Obviously, you get immunised if you go to certain places, even just for holiday reasons.
Really interesting is that these two groups of people politically can very often be put at war with one another.
We are the party that will make massive cuts to welfare. If we don't, well, what is coming down the track will best part bankrupt us, although some might say we're almost there.
Some people call these...
Fuck off, man, frog. Fuck off. I've already had one government actually physically try to deny me money, starve me, make me ill, make me worse, make my health decline. They've already tried to end me. I survived. Fuck you, Gideon Osborne and IDS. 330,000 excess deaths, anyone. I will never let them forget this. I will always be here to say this stuff. Manfrog, fuck off. You're not coming after me. I will literally try and fight back as best as I can, considering my health issues. So no, I'm not going through that again. That was fucking horrific.
Young middle class grads like champagne socialists. It's meant to be an insult to say they're sort of pretending to care about workers' rights or something like that. But I mean, really, I think it's just the fact that middle class people are increasingly faced with exploitative and underpaying working environments. And so their politics tends to reflect that reality. And they can be very politically discontent because they were told from a young age that if they go and get educated, they'll go get a job and own a house. But when they did all that and their realities didn't meet the promises that society fucking told them, many can then conclude that the system is fundamentally flawed and they seek political alternatives.
So can university really said to still be worth it? Every job you apply for says no, because there are 140 applicants per graduate job now. You're lucky if you even get an email to acknowledge that you've applied, let alone to say no. The fact of saying no is borne out by not receiving an email back from the people you applied to 4 months ago.
But then on the flip side, it creates an interesting political tension as we increasingly see the rise of far-right political parties. Parties like Reform, who tend to position themselves as the sort of voice of the working class, but their policies don't reflect that. They will typically be in favour of tax cuts for the rich, cutting public spending, and reducing the welfare state. They also tend to vote against increased workers' rights. Things like zero-hour contracts they tend to be in favour of, which of course is against the genuine economic working class. Like, workers want those things, typically. So this begs the question, who do they mean when they say working class? Well, I think it's this strange coalition of different groups, one of which being these sort of more petty bourgeois, working class type small business owners. You can see this in a person like Charlie Mullins. He's a perfect example.
I'm normal sort of working class person, come from nothing. It's a long struggle, and you know, businesses are not an overnight success.
But always argues against taxing rich people because he is rich people.
What she's doing now is atrocious. She's talking about someone with a £500,000 house, which is nothing in London. It's like a one-bedroom apartment.
Yep.
How does she think these people got them? You know, they're working class people.
And also you can see this in Tommy Robinson. I mean, just purely based on economics, he is a multi-millionaire himself, but he appeals to this sort of classic working class culturally because of his accent and demeanor. But I think it's really important to distinguish the difference between the economic working class and then the cultural working class, because as I just laid out, those things have fundamentally changed, as the modern economic working class isn't that sort of Cockney geezer as much anymore. It's now made up of a mixture of white Brits, multicultural Brits, immigrants, and increasingly the postgraduate struggling middle class kids. Now with that though, there is a key nuance to make, that of course there is still a large white British classically working class who have not managed to ascend into this sort of petty bourgeois, well-off type person. There's loads of them that still haven't. You'll find these types of Brits often in sort of post-industrial towns that are now in decline. These people are not well off and they're not doing well, and they face all of the same economic problems. And this group, the sort of left behind white British working class, they are very much subject to a political tug of war. The socialists will try and appeal to them over their dislike for, you know, exploitative working conditions, unstable jobs, lack of jobs, and underinvestment into their towns.
Are we going to have a country that is run for corporations, where our public services, our education system, our NHS and our housing are used as investment opportunities for the super rich? Or are we going to have a country that's run for the people in it? And I say, we have got to have a country that's run for the people in it.
Whereas the populist far right will tend to go after them over concerns for immigration. And although these towns can sometimes be like 95% white, they might have seen increased immigration over the last sort of 20 years. And politicians will tell them that the immigrants are straining your NHS.
Straight up fucking racist bollocks. I would burn that thing. Literally. Obviously I wouldn't. Rachel! Yeah, I'll be going for a bit if you want to stick around. Obviously, no pressure or anything. Great Joyce comrades. Rachel Atwood is here. Hi, Rachel. Welcome. I'll give you my full spiel. Katie Marshall 4340 on YouTube or MadCat79 Scotty I on Twitch. So, disabled Marxist streamer who covers health and disability issues as well as politics and some history and some fun things as well. Welcome, Rachel. Hi. You're across the pond, aren't you? New subscriber. Thank you, Rachel. Much appreciated, darling. 3D soap holder. Whoop. Hang on. Is that here? No, YouTube. Another Brummy. So I'm up to 3. Kev, Miss Hire, and Bunny in the Box. Oh, 4 now. Socialists. 4 Brummies. Haha. The Mad Cat takeover of Birmingham is finally happening. Thank you, Socialists. Any kaiju-sized ratchet? Sorry, I had to ask that. Sorry, I like joking about shit.
Your schools, your council houses, which as we know is obviously due to underinvestment from the government, but they often can make a very useful scapegoat to blame economic problems on. And as well, these parties will try to appeal to a more nationalistic cultural identity, telling them that British culture is in decline and under attack. And it's interesting then what comes of that, right? Because you have these people.
Come on, John, he'd fight off the rats. See what he's like on stream. He'll just stomp on them and boot them right at the fucking window.
These communities that are really struggling, who then get weaponized as enemies of the middle class graduate types, because the middle class graduate tends to be more socially progressive, pro-immigration, pro-LGBT, pro-trans, etc. Despite the fact that just logically, if these groups teamed up, it'd be much better for them. They are deliberately pitted against each other by politicians and political influencers. And to be clear, I am talking in massive generalizations. There will of course exist many exceptions.
Oh, he'll be able to do it, John. You know that. Plus, all we need to say to them, well, all we need to say to Kev is that all the rats in Birmingham support Villa, and he'll just go out with a big fuck off hammer and bash them all. I need to tell Kev that tomorrow. That'll be fucking hilarious. If you want to get rid of the rats, Kev, they're all Villa fans. Whatever size boot he is, Doc Martens, and goes and stomps Northern. Oh god, that's
To
fucking
these
hilarious.
blocks, but these are sort of general trends you'll find. So now, as these culture wars of divisions rage, there is one final, newly emerging class in the Great British class system that is growing and growing and basically breaks down all of the conventions of the original system, and that is the precariat. So if on one side you have the classic self-employed striver, the plumber on 70k, where do we slot in Deliveroo drivers, Uber drivers, Amazon delivery drivers? These lot often are self-employed. They receive no worker protections, no unionization, no sick pay. They're self-employed, but sort of in name only. Like if the traditional definition of the word bourgeois is the owner of the means of production, can we really say that owning a bike is owning the means of production? It's a bit of a stretch. Economically and materially, he is a very precarious worker. He or she has to rely on tech platforms for work. And every job that they do, they have to pay that platform a small percentage. Sociologists define these people as the precariat because of the insecurity and precariousness of their whole entire lives. They work on temporary contracts, 0-hour gigs, they live in rented accommodation, and are basically living in endless flexibility, which is a sort of cute word for instability. They're not workers in the old sense. They have no worker protections. But equally, they're not bosses either. They permanently live on the edge.
Uber calls its drivers partners, independent operators who partner up with the tech firm. Uber claimed it's a technology company, not a taxi firm, but the Employment Tribunal dismissed the company's arguments and suggested the firm had tried to bamboozle its drivers with twisted language.
And unlike, the traditional petty bourgeois who tend to move into self-employment because they want freedom, they want to be in control of their own lives, etc., the precariat aren't sort of aspirational like that. They're just pushed into self-employment due to a lack of stable jobs. So you end up in this strange situation whereby the British class system makes less and less sense every single day. And politically, this breakdown of the class system and the instability of it and the many divisions it causes is political gold for the ruling class. Because these
Funny that, isn't it? You exploit these poor workers. I wish of that sphere of social life anymore. Thank God for that. Physically, my body's fucked. I live with it now. I'm fine with it. Obviously, I know exactly what's wrong with me, and I do things to mitigate the impact on what I want to do in my life, in my in my work life, and on this platform, and within my family life as well, with my husband, and with my family up in Perth, and my sister here in Glasgow, and her wife, and my friends and things that I see. I've managed to kind of compartmentalize sections of my life, but they all still overlap, like a series of sort of Venn diagrams. They all intersect in different ways. Huh. I never actually thought of a bit of that. Being able to use your intersections to connect with different parts of your society, your local community, your city, your country, whatever, the rest of the world is always a good thing. Being able to reach out and to make branching connections to actually bring people together, especially these poor bastards that are either Uber taxi drivers or Deliveroo, or just those people who are on 0 hour contracts who go around on either electric bikes or actual just bikes. At least Domino's give you an opportunity to actually get a car and give you decent payback for driving. Oh, I love Scotland as well. I love my country desperately. Feel free to come up here, Michael. I would encourage it. I can give you a guide, or I can actually guide you if I'm physically capable of. I can create a little document, a little pamphlet for you for different things you can do up here. Come to Glasgow. This is amazing. We have some of the best gigs in the world. And I'm not joking about that. You literally have been named one of the best places to go and see bands in the world. Sorry, South Africa. We got there before you. Don't get me wrong, they've got the fucking bigger numbers. You don't have the Glaswegians. You don't have some of the Scots. Obviously, some Scots do actually get to see gigs in South America and in America and Canada and parts of Europe and things. The Scandinavian countries are amazing for gigs as well. I like Scotland though. Glasgow and Edinburgh are amazing. So is Aberdeen apparently. I've never been to a gig in Aberdeen. Obviously, I've been up to Aberdeen. My uncle lives there.
endless divisions allow for the ruling class to pit everyone against each other. All whilst, in reality, all of them are actually just in the same boat. Insecure, squeezed, shut out of real wealth and power. And instead of these groups uniting politically, they're kept divided politically, fed a diet of culture wars, rage and scapegoats, as well as condemnation and judgment. All whilst the ruling class, the billionaires, the offshore wealth, operate quietly in the background.
I have been over to Sandy. Don't get me wrong. I love Left of the Box. She is amazing. if I could figure out how to actually fucking do it, if she was live after I was finishing up, I would raid you all into Sandy on YouTube. I still can't quite figure that out. Obviously, there's people on YouTube who would be live after I'm finishing up because here in Europe there'd be lots of like Canadians and Americans who would just start streaming when I finish at like between 2 and 4 in the morning, depending on how I'm feeling. If I can go a little bit longer, I will. So all the time, until I figure out how to actually raid into someone on YouTube, I'll be. What part of Canada is Sandy in, Rachel? Obviously, the same sort of time divisions, so at a minimum, she's 5 hours behind us, 5 hours behind me. So right now, midnight, 11, 9, 8, it's 8 p.m. in Canada on the east coast, on the Atlantic coast. Oh God, yeah, definitely. We can compare and contrast what it's like being disabled in Canada and what is she Ontario? So she's about six, six-ish, 6 hours behind then. So it's about 7 or 8 for her. That sounds about right. 5 hour difference. 8 p.m. Ontario time. The main one, the main two that I read into on Canada on Twitch would either be Igloo or the Mayor. Praise be, the Mayor McCheese, or Igloo, or damn it, I can't fucking Maple. So Igloo BC, obviously he's on the far coast, so that he's 8 hours behind me. I don't know where Mayor is. Is Mayor McCheese in the Ontario area as well? I can't remember where Maple is either. So for them, they're between like 8 p.m. back to about 6 p.m. in the Kingdom of Aye. I've been to King Hong. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a lovely little place, really good chippy, and a lovely Chinese restaurant. Yeah, 5 hours in like the Eastern Seaboard essentially, so like uh, Brunswick and Nova Scotia, that sort of area. My local Indian done the best, but he didn't charge me for it ever because he knew I understand how foul it's made and how spicy it was. He always used to give it to me for free after I'd been to like the pub and stuff. There you go, Katie. And he gave me fowl with both some fried rice and a naan because he was based. His uncle, who owns the business, is a chain of red curry houses here in Glasgow. It's just down the road. Me and Superb used to walk down to get our curry. So for me, it'd be like 10 minutes walk away from the flat, just down a bit, down in that direction. Are you wanting one today? He said, no, I'll be safe and I'll just stick to my journal entry. Thank you. Hassan, Hassan. It was a weird spelling. So I basically just called him Haz because it was a Z instead of two S's. But Haz. He was good. I really miss him. He got moved down to the main one on in the south side, the other side of the river, in Pollokshaws. And I got his little brother. Oh, Newfies. I love Newfies. Oh, damn, I can see her. Damn, she doesn't stream anymore. I can fucking see her. Igloo or Maple, and obviously the Mayor McCheese would be able to say as well. And probably Sandy. Hildy. Hildy. Where's Hildy? Do you remember where Hildy was from, Rachel? I miss Hildy Beast.
Above it all, doing better than they have ever done historically and are more secure than they've ever been ever. So, with all that doom and gloom, right, is there anything we can do about it? Well, it's hard, right? Because media always fills us with these stories that really obviously pit us against each other. But you have to, like, just understand that these divisions are theatre, ultimately. They're only politically useful for people at the top. Because whether you're, you know, a uni student saddled with 60 grand's worth of debt, a Deliveroo driver with no sick pay, or a tradesman who's getting hammered by the HMRC, whilst billionaires are able to avoid paying tax, you are all in the exact same struggle, being squeezed by the exact same system. So we have to try and reach people and unify on economic issues. And we are seeing this is cutting through. I mean, you guys are all aware of Gary's economics, and increasingly Zach Polanski of the Green Party, go join the Greens if you haven't, he is also starting to cut through, and it is working. And I think we just have to keep talking about inequality. Whether it's just you talking to your friends in the pub, sending videos to your parents who might not have heard some of this stuff, or if you want to be a content creator, go out and showcase wealth inequality. Go to rich areas, show how people are living right now. Go to Mayfair, go to South Kensington, go to fucking anywhere.
I'm planning on doing that, Jimmy, for here in Glasgow specifically, and up in my hometown of Perth. The health concerns included. I need to judge how physically capable I'm going to be able to do shit. Obviously, I have free bus travel across Scotland, and it's easy to. My local bus service on the streets that I live on is a shit because First Glasgow stuck. First Glasgow, sort yourselves out, you absolute bastards. It's easy for me to get around Glasgow because buses do exist and I can get to other places. Oh, you can sit there for a minute.
In the southeast that votes Tory. We need to show and educate people using new media and using our voices. Class really isn't about accents, tastes and culture. It is about power. Who has it and who doesn't?
I managed to start changing the funding formulas to make sure that areas like this are getting the funding that they deserve. Because we inherited a bunch of formulas from the Labour Party that shoved all the funding into deprived urban areas. You know, that needed to be undone.
Fuck off, Rishi. You absolute fucking ghoul. I'm glad you lost the general election. Your party lost the general election. Is he still an MP? Is he still in the Commons? If he is, he shouldn't be. Richmond, Yorkshire. You suck. Sorry for any decent individuals who live in Richmond, Yorkshire, in Rishi's constituency, but fuck off the rest of you. You voted for this man. I did used to have time for you to explain my position, my lived experience, what I go through on a daily basis. I don't think any of you would actually care. And you would say, just do better. I have. My health sucks. I have the intelligence and I have the capacity to be a politician. I don't have the physical capability, though. Which is a damn shame because I think I'd be a fucking awesome politician. I'd be like Mary Black 2.0. Maybe a little bit more eloquent. But don't get me wrong, I've got fire and rage inside of me. And a rather sharp tongue at times. Ooh.
The petty bourgeois were never meant to survive, but also the middle class weren't meant to disappear. Yet here we are in Britain's new class war. And the only way for us to win it is to recognise it and to cut through all of this culture war noise, to fight together to improve all of our lives and not against each other. If you enjoy this video, make sure to go support me on Patreon. It massively helps me support the work I'm doing here. It helps me to pay my editors better, so I'll link that below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
I'll get this queued up, then I'll quickly run, and hopefully before my 3 favourite shorts finish, I will be back. If I am not, I do apologise. I will be back. Oh no, I'm not going to be back. Go! Wait.
You're surrounded by a vampire, a werewolf, and a chain demon.
This is it. The moment I've been waiting for. I cast Greater Polycule!
Do you mean Greater Polymorph?
I do not. No.
Sometimes life gives you lemons and you make lemonade. And sometimes life gives you Nazis. And you depose them before they form a radical death called ethno state. Have a glorious day.
What?
Sometimes life gives you lemons and you make lemonade. And sometimes life gives you Nazis. And you depose them before they form a radical death called ethno state. Have a glorious day.
What?
Ah, that's better. I needed my backlight on there. I've got a standard lamp right behind me. You can probably see it. Here. Okay, let's see how much of Phil we can actually get through. This will be fun. And Scrimmy, is that in the Discord? Or you can just post the video title on what channel it's on. If you can save me from Phil, I'd love that. Rejoice, comrades, the resident philosopher is here. Hi, Scribby. Yeah, give me a second. What percentage am I on actually? Holy fuck, this needs to go in charge. I'll give you the link. Give me a second. Copy link. Okay. One sec. Ta-da! Link to Numpty Women. Have at. Post away. If you can save me from Phil, please do it. Uh, Phil, we already knew who they were. We've been saying this for the last sort of decade. Just saying, really. When is he going to fucking learn, do you think? Who knows? Hopefully soon, with any luck. Does anyone know how Super Transky's doing? I keep on meaning to go and check on her to see how she's coping and stuff. Oh, fucking hell. Too dark for me, fucking hell. Hmm? Oh, I need to put you on charge. So you can go up. You can go there. You can go up there. You can go up in here. Ah. It's in general. Thank you so much, Gibby. Much appreciated. Huh. Oh, it's David Foster Wallace. You can go down there.
Now just hardwired, like height or. Greetings, thanks, and congratulations to Kenyon's graduating class of 2005. If anybody feels like perspiring, I'd invite you to go ahead because I'm sure going to. In fact, I'm going to get a hanky right here. There are these two young fish swimming along, and they happen to meet an older fish swimming the other way who nods at them and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the two young fish swim on for a bit, and then eventually one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell is water?" This is a standard requirement of U.S. commencement speeches, the deployment of didactic little parable-ish stories. The story thing turns out to be one of the better, less bullshitty conventions of the genre. But if you're worried that I plan to present myself here as the wise older fish explaining what water is to you younger fish, please don't be. I am not the wise old fish. The point of the fish story is merely that the most obvious, important realities are often the ones that are hardest to see and talk about. Stated as an English sentence, of course, this is just a banal platitude. But the fact is that in the day-to-day trenches of adult existence, banal platitudes can have a life or death importance. Or so I wish to suggest to you on this dry and lovely morning. Of course, the main requirement of speeches like this is that I'm supposed to talk about your liberal arts education's meaning, to try to explain why the degree you're about to receive has actual human value instead of just a material payoff. So let's talk about the single most pervasive cliche in the commencement speech genre, which is that a liberal arts education is not so much about filling you up with knowledge as it is about, quote, teaching you how to think. If you're like me as a student, you've never liked hearing this, and you tend to feel a bit insulted by the claim that you've needed anybody to teach you how to think, since the fact that you even got admitted to a college this good seems like proof that you already know how to think. But I'm going to pause.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Scribby. Is David Foster Wallace, someone I recognize the name. I think I've watched a couple of his videos in the past, like years ago. I'm liking this so far. Thank you so much. Anything that can save me from film warehouse is always a good thing. Obviously, I'll go back to it and just punish myself and the rest of you, obviously, because we need to. Unfortunately, we need to cover Phil sometimes. That reality of life, really. Maybe I should do the same for like Graham Hughes and Femi. Maybe an idea. And maybe Super Tan as well.
It's you that the liberal arts cliche turns out not to be insulting at all, because the really significant education in thinking that we're supposed to get in a place like this isn't really about the capacity to think, but rather about the choice of what to think about. If your total freedom of choice regarding what to think about seems too obvious to waste time discussing, I'd ask you to think about fish and water and to bracket for just a few minutes your skepticism about the value of the totally obvious. Here's another didactic little story. There are these two guys sitting together in a bar in the remote Alaskan wilderness. One of the guys is religious, the other's an atheist, and the two are arguing about the existence of God with that special intensity that comes after about the fourth beer. And the atheist says, look, it's not like I don't have actual reasons for not believing in God. It's not like I haven't ever experimented with the whole God and prayer thing. Just last month, I got caught away from camp in that terrible blizzard, and I was totally lost, and I couldn't see a thing, and it was 50 below. And so I tried it. I fell to my knees in the snow and cried out, oh God, if there is a God, I'm lost in this blizzard, and I'm going to die if you don't help me. And now, in the bar, the religious guy looks at the atheist all puzzled. Well, then you must believe now, he says. After all, here you are, alive. The atheist just rolls his eyes. No, man, all that was a couple Eskimos happened to come wandering by and they showed me the way back to camp. It's easy to run this story through a kind of standard liberal arts analysis. The exact same experience can mean two totally different things to two different people, given those people's two different belief templates and two different ways of constructing meaning from experience. Because we prize tolerance and diversity of belief, nowhere in our liberal arts analysis do we want to claim that one guy's interpretation is true and the other guy's is false or bad. Which is fine, except we also never end up talking about just where these individual templates and beliefs come from, meaning where they come from inside the two guys. As if a person's most basic orientation toward the world and the meaning of his experience were somehow just hardwired, like height or shoe size, or automatically absorbed from the culture, like language. As if how we construct meaning were not actually a matter of personal, intentional choice. Plus there's the matter of arrogance. The non-religious guy is so totally certain in his dismissal of the possibility that the passing Eskimos had anything to do with his prayer for help. True, there are plenty of religious people who seem arrogantly certain of their own interpretations too. They're probably even more repulsive than atheists, at least to most of us. But religious dogmatist's problem is exactly the same as the story's unbeliever.
I hope I don't come off as repulsive to everyone. I really do. I do try to make this a warm, welcoming space, a place of education, a place of free thought and opinion. Obviously, some opinions do rile against me, don't get me wrong about that. And obviously, I do get trolls and they get bonked because, no, fuck off, I'm not dealing with that. At least of all in certain situations in my life. Just, no, not dealing with it, fuck off. I try to make this as open and as welcoming as I can. I hope you all like that. Ah, motherfucker. I'll go back to the beginning because the drawings are actually quite good. Hopefully it'll come up. It's so fucking funny I mentioned her and she's got video out. That's only 17 minutes. David Foster Wallace. Oh, David Foster. Alright, this is water. That's it.
Possibility that the passing Eskimos had anything to do with his prayer for help. True, there are plenty of religious people who seem arrogantly certain of their own.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I have I've got my close family members who are actually religious. They go to church. I love them. I do. Don't get me wrong. So, younger sister, by the way, she understands why I'm an atheist. Thank you so much, darling. She knows why I'm an atheist, and she knows why I'm a Marxist, why I'm a communist, which is eminently better for my way of thinking and for family life. Oh, Nietzsche. Correct socialist, yes. Don't get me wrong, he gets labelled labelled incorrectly at times. It is kind of infuriating. For certain takes, I don't agree with Nietzsche or Nietzsche. Porsche, Nietzsche sounds about right. Can everyone see the video now? I do apologise about that. As long as you could hear it, I can go back to the beginning if you want to see the drawings. Obviously, there's still about 20 minutes. Yeah, no, he wasn't. Yeah, correct, yeah. Oh, no, obviously not Marxist. Yes, he was an aristocrat, obviously. Quite a lot of philosophers were. I'm sure Scrippy will agree with us on that one.
Interpretations, too. They're probably even more repulsive than atheists, at least to most of us. But religious dogmatist's problem is exactly the same as the story's unbeliever: blind certainty. A closed-mindedness that amounts to an imprisonment so total that the prisoner doesn't even know he's locked up. The point here is that I think this is one part of what teaching me how to think is really supposed to mean: to be just a little less arrogant, to have just a little critical awareness about myself and my certainties, because a huge percentage of the stuff that I tend to be automatically certain of is, it turns out, totally wrong and deluded. I have learned this the hard way, as I predict you graduates will too. Here is just one example of the total wrongness of something I tend to be automatically sure of. Everything in my own immediate experience supports my deep belief that I am the absolute center of the universe. The real
I am not the absolute center of the universe. I'm not even the absolute center of my living room. I am not the absolute center of my family or my social life either. I am certain about certain physical aspects of my life, especially where my health is connected to, but what I think and what I believe, I don't want to say not non-arrogant. Obviously, I can't actually say that. It's up to other people to decide if I'm arrogant or not. I don't get to make that distinction, obviously. I'm not that self-conceited, obviously. Yes, you do socialists. I've seen you in President Sundays. Okay, we'll be back. Well, technically, it's now Sunday. Rejoice. We have. Oh, fuck it. I'll actually check. Give me a minute, comrades. Let's see if his channel's actually back. I'll search. I will search. I am losing my chat of Twitch for a second. For about a minute or so. Yeah. Right. Kev. Rejoice, comrades! Kev has his channel back on Twitch. Whoop, whoop. That one back as well? It is! It is back! We have our Brummy comrade back on Twitch. Fucking awesome. You got there.
Most vivid and important person in existence. We rarely talk about this sort of natural basic self-centeredness because it's so socially repulsive, but it's pretty much the same for all of us. It is our default setting, hardwired into our boards at birth. Think about it. There is no experience you have had that you are not at the absolute center of. The world as you experience.
If you can check Socialix, I usually put them onto my wish list on Amazon. Can you go and check the price of that book for me on Amazon? I'm a Prime member, by the way, so I can get it at. Oh, do you love it as well, Michael? Michael, nice one. I need to expand my philosophy collection. I've got Rosa, obviously, based. Love her desperately. I've got obviously Marx, Engels, Lenin. I don't have any Stalin's books yet. I need them. I'm up for debate with that. Oh, I'm willing to read Nietzsche. Obviously, there's other books that I need to get as well. My book list is ever expanding, especially in theory. Funny that I've left us reading theory books. Never been known.
Experience it is there in front of you or behind you, to the left or right of you, on your TV or your monitor, and so on. Other people's thoughts and feelings have to be communicated to you somehow, but your own are so immediate, urgent, real. Please don't worry that I'm getting ready to lecture you about compassion or other directedness or all the so-called virtues. This is not a matter of virtue. It's a matter of my choosing to do the work of somehow altering or getting free of my natural, hardwired default setting, which is to be deeply and literally self-centered, and to see and interpret everything through this lens of self. People who can adjust their natural default setting this way are often described as being well adjusted, which I suggest to you is not an accidental term. Given the triumphant academic setting here, an obvious question is how much of this work of adjusting our default.
Next Socialix, that seems a bit loud. It was. I will put him down just a tad, so he's not blaring my ears too much. What one would you recommend for me, Scribby, if you want post what one you think I connect most with or enjoy reading by nature into the philosophy channel? Oh, from quarantine. Is he? I might actually go over to quarantine. That might be quite good. Don't get me wrong, I don't fully agree with President Sunday. He seems relatively decent though. Never met him, obviously.
Setting involves actual knowledge or intellect. this question gets very tricky. Probably the most dangerous thing about an academic education, at least in my own case, is that it enables my tendency to over-intellectualize stuff, to get lost in abstract arguments inside my head instead of simply paying attention to what's going on right in front of me, paying attention to what is going on inside me. As I'm sure you guys know by now, it is extremely difficult to stay alert and attentive instead of getting hypnotized by the constant monologue inside your own head. Maybe happening right now. 20 years after my own graduation, I have come gradually to understand that the liberal arts cliche about teaching you how to think is actually shorthand for a much deeper, more serious idea. Learning how to think really means learning how to exercise some control over how and what you think. It means being conscious and aware enough to choose what you pay attention to and to choose how you construct meaning from experience. Because
That's a good point. I like that. Thank you, David Foster Wallace. I agree with that. That's quite good. I keep on deconstructing what I think and what I believe. Obviously, it's quite easy for me to do because I've got nothing but time on my hands other than going to appointments and stuff. But everything else, I literally have vast waves of time on my hands to do anything I actually want. Yeah, I'm liking this discussion and chat. Force Snake and Socialix. I'm struggling to pronounce that. I keep on wanting to say Socialix. He does. So yes, he does. He puts out a hell of a lot of fucking work into it. He must get knackered. I didn't know that. I knew he had a trans partner. I didn't know that President Sunday was an anarchist. I just thought he was a classic Marxist or classic ML like myself. I didn't know he was an anarchist. Maybe I should have realised that. Because a lot of what he says actually syncs quite well with like Marx and Engels, Lenin and stuff. Socialist, yes. Fantastic. Feel free to educate me on how to pronounce everyone's names. Obviously, Flow Snake, easy. Katie, or Marcat, easy. Like I say a fair few times, I'm a basic bitch.
if you cannot exercise this kind of choice in adult life, you will be totally hosed. Think of the old cliche about, quote, the mind being an excellent servant but a terrible master. This, like many cliches, so lame and unexciting on the surface, actually expresses a great and terrible truth. It is not the least bit coincidental that adults who commit suicide with firearms almost always shoot themselves in the head. They shoot the terrible master. And the truth is that most of these suicides are actually dead long before they pull the trigger. And I submit that this is what the real, no bullshit value of your liberal arts education is supposed to be about. How to keep from going through your comfortable, prosperous, respectable adult life dead, unconscious, a slave to your head and to your natural default setting of being uniquely, completely, imperially alone, day in and day out.
That is totally accurate. When was this done? Give me a minute. This is 5 years ago. That still holds true today. It held true when I was first starting my working in life and working career in my early 20s, essentially. So when I was like 21 to 22, that was true back then, which was 26 years ago, and it still holds true today. We are literally slaves in our work life. Quite a lot of us. I'm not. I'm out of the rat race, if you want to call it that. Oh dear God, did he unalive himself? Fuck. Oh, don't get me wrong. I have down days. The mentally, psyche wise, psychologically wise, and physically. The physical thing is every day, essentially because of arthritis and autoimmune disease and shit like that. My actual physical health deteriorating away. Fucking amazing. Love it. Carry on. Rejoice! Elron Hubbard is here. Hi, Elron. How goes it? I was thinking, I've got a plan of attack you might like. I can DM it to you if you wish. Obviously, there's plenty of time before the next election, unless she does something completely fucking stupid or says something totally mental. I quite like Cynthia's voice. Nice, smooth, and mellow, but I have problems with some of the stuff he says. Obviously, we all disagree with each other on certain issues. Oh, you came into a philosophy debate, Elron. Don't get me wrong. I was thinking about things that we could actually help with getting rid of your MP. Well, me personally, I was thinking about things that actually help in your battle. We need to get rid of her. We really do. And I've got things that I need to express to you. I can DM you and stuff. Should be quite fun.
That may sound like hyperbole or abstract nonsense. Let's get concrete. The plain fact is that you graduating seniors do not yet have any clue what day in, day out really means. There happen to be whole, large parts of adult American life that nobody talks about in commencement speeches. One such part involves...
Yeah. Oh, we've got time to formulate plans to actually do better campaigning to get rid of her for the next general election in about 4 years. Well, three and a half, roughly. Slightly over 3.5 years. Plenty of time to think of about ways of campaigning, telling people stuff. Friends, family, local acquaintances in the constituency to help unseat her.
boredom, routine, and petty frustration. The parents and older folks here will know all too well what I'm talking about. By way of example, let's say it's an average adult day and you get up in the morning, go to your challenging white-collar college graduate job, and you work hard for 8 or 10 hours, and at the end of the day you're tired and somewhat stressed, and all you want is to go home and have a good supper and maybe unwind for an hour and then hit the sack early because, of course, you have to get up the next day and do it all again. But then you remember there's no food at home. You haven't had time to shop this week because of your challenging job. And so now, after work, you have to get in your car and drive to the supermarket. It's the end of a work day, and the traffic is apt to be very bad. So getting to the store takes way longer than it should. And when you finally get there, the supermarket is very crowded because, of course, it's the time of day when all the other people with jobs also try to squeeze in some grocery shopping.
Thank you, Michael. Brilliant seeing you here tonight. which is good. I love it. Thank you. You're going to look after yourself. Self-care is good care. Stay hydrated, not necessarily with alcohol, but with juice or water or milk, or if you feel like it, drinking cream straight out of the carton. You look after yourself. Stay based, and I'll catch you later. Bye. And as always, if you feel like jumping into the Discord and putting things into the channels, or just reaching out to me, just saying stuff, every now and again you'll get a funny little at everyone's thing from me. My current theme is every time someone mentions it, just going at everyone. No boob. That is all. Like I done it tonight when Kev was covering Zach Polanski being on Pod Save the UK with Nish Kumar and Coco Khan because it got brought up again. I quite like that. I need I need to expand that. See if I can think of other just one words to get my message across, or maybe two words. That might be quite cool. But add hypnoboob. Quite funny.
And the store is hideously fluorescently lit and infused with soul-killing muzak or corporate pop. And it's pretty much the last place you want to be. But you can't just get in and quickly out. You have to wander all over the huge, overlit store's confusing aisles to find the stuff you want. And you have to maneuver your junky cart through all these other tired, hurried people with carts, et cetera, cutting stuff out because it's a long ceremony. And eventually, you get all your supper supplies, except now it turns out there aren't enough checkout lanes open, even though it's the end of the day rush. So the checkout line is incredibly long, which is stupid and infuriating. But you can't take your frustration out on the frantic lady working the register, who is overworked at a job whose daily tedium and meaninglessness surpasses the imagination of any of us here at a prestigious college. But anyway, you finally get to the checkout line's front, and you pay for your food and get told to have a nice day in a voice that is the absolute voice of death. And then you have to take your creepy, flimsy plastic bag.
Don't get me wrong, I have heard that from checkout stuff. I was checkout stuff when I was a teenager. God, I hated it. At least I wasn't on the shop floor. Those poor bastards, I felt for them. Even at the age of 17, working at a supermarket in Perth. Checkout is easier. I'm a bright and breezy person. I always sound quite upbeat, quite light. Airy voice at times. Always smiling, welcoming. I did feel tired, obviously, and stuff like that. But I was always cheery, saying hello, hello, scanning their shopping as I go. I quite liked it. A lot of the customers said, "You seem a bright, cheery lassie." Well, I am. I am bright and cheery. Oh, please, 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 my comrades, please, my lovelies. I can see the way this might end up going. I've seen it as well, Socialix, when I've been over on President Sunday streams. Not quite reaching level of bullying, but being dismissive at times about certain people's lived experiences. Not to me personally, thank God, because if you'd done that, I would have just went straight on the fucking attack. Because I get enough of it in my own political social life with the government and stuff like that. If someone dismisses my lived experience, I will literally lash out at times. I have done it before in the past. I've done it in Kevin Helena's chat a couple of years ago now. Not Kevin Helena directly, but people in the chat. literally said to me, but we've come to an agreement. Thank you, Socialix, so much. I just don't want to. I don't want to see you lovely people fall out with each other. I want both of you to be in this community. Obviously, being able to reach out and be able to talk to other people is a mission of mine. I want that. I'll try to be a mediator if I need to be. Don't get me wrong. I love both of you. You're amazing having you in my community. It's brilliant. There was people in chat, people who are in Kevin Helena's community as well, actually said to President Sunday, "Why are you letting this happen in your chat? They're coming after someone that I like." She is quite good. I love her. I don't want to say unless this person wants me to say who actually came to my defence. I'll get back to them to see if they're okay with me mentioning who they are. But they defended me. Don't get rid. There's people who are in both Kevin Hill and this chat who also frequent President Sunday streams. There's a few people you can think who it might be. I will not give away who they are unless I get permission from them to say who they are. I defended myself, but it was also good having a defender there as well to help me. I was getting kind of angry at them. The person who was saying that said you can actually expand that to everyone else. Said, but no, I'm relaying my story to actually help people. And President Sunday didn't actually intervene while this was going on in chat. This was like last year or something, early last year, and he done nothing. Fair enough. The chats do get busy at times, especially on President Sundays. I don't know how anyone in Hassan's chat can do shit. Over 100 mods, and that sort of shit still happens in Hassan's chat. With that amount of people in the chat, he needs at least 500 people as moderators to watch out for everything.
Of groceries in your cart with the one crazy wheel that pulls maddeningly to the left, all the way out through the crowded, bumpy, littery parking lot, and then you have to drive all the way home through slow, heavy, SUV-intensive rush hour traffic, etc., etc. Everyone here has done this, of course, but it hasn't yet been part of you graduates' actual life routine,
Yeah.
day after week, after month, after year. But it will be. And many more dreary, annoying, seemingly meaningless routines besides. But that is not the point. The point is that petty, frustrating crap like this is exactly where the work of choosing is going to come in. Because the traffic jams...
Hell yes. That is correct. That is totally fucking accurate across the globe, especially in capitalism. Rejoice. I am here to destroy capitalism. Enough said. Oh, there's a new one. At everyone. Capitalism sucks. That is all. Or at everyone. Piss off, man frog. That's good. I'm liking this. This is quite good. As someone who got bullied in school, I completely understand. Obviously, it's a different type of bullying from when you're a wee lassie or a wee boy or a wee young bee back when you were like 10, 11, 12, stuff like that. That is a different type of bullying. That should be helped out of in the households by the parents, by the family members like mum, dad, or mum, granny, granddad, auntie, uncle, blah, 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 brother, sister, whatever. that kind of feeling that you experience in schools needs to be helped out by the parents as well as the teachers and other classmates, other schoolmates, other pupils or students. In the workplace, with a little bit more autonomy when you're in your early to mid 20s, being able to discuss, talk to other people within the same sort of office space, supermarket, whatever, fucking car garage, or being a paint deck, whatever work area you are in, being able to reach out to your fellow workers, fellow colleagues, and stuff like that. Oh, do you think? Do you think if we do like maybe not a full blown intervention, if you want to call it like that, we can actually help President Sunday? Obviously, he's his own person, but being able to maybe shift him a little bit in certain aspects and maybe be more cognizant of the chat. That'd be a good idea. Obviously, I keep an active look as well. Plus, I have you listening. Ray Joy's comrades, one of the youngest members of the community. Hi, Linton. Ray Joy's comrades, Linton is here. How's it going, comrade? Great to see you. David Foster Wallace. So this one's nearly halfway through it. After this, the resident zoomer. Oh, I do so love my younger audience. I'm here to corrupt you. How goes it? How is life going? Great to see you.
And crowded aisles and long checkout lines give me time to think. And if I don't make a conscious decision about how to think and what to pay attention to, I'm going to be pissed and miserable every time I have to shop. Because my natural default setting is the certainty that situations like this are really all about me, about my hungriness and my fatigue and my desire to just get home. And it's going to seem for all the world like everybody else is just in my way. And who are all these people in my way? And look at how repulsive most of them are, and how stupid and cow-like and dead-eyed and non-human they seem in the checkout line. Or at how annoying and rude it is that people are talking loudly on cell phones in the middle of the line.
They are consequences of life, and unfortunately standing in the queue at the checkout. Don't get me wrong, I've done it many, many times in my life. Most of them have been fairly good. Don't get me wrong, some of them have been downright fucking argumentative and people literally yelling at each other because they can't get through the checkout quick enough. These things do happen. Not like we're going to have a deep philosophical debate while you're waiting to get out your pizza and your six pack and your bloody Mars bar or the tub of ice cream. Just want to get home, have your pizza, have a couple of beers, have some ice cream, then get to bed and do the same again the next day. It does suck. I've got it lucky. I've got it kind of easier. I've got my super hubby. He goes out and does the either fortnightly or monthly shop. We buy fresh meats. They get frozen. They get put in freezer bags and put in the freezer. We buy a fuck ton of bread because toast, obviously. Either toast with butter or toast with jam. Never both together because that is evil and disgusting and needs to be scalped. I say that because my mum does it and it's wrong. It tastes wrong. It just tastes wrong in so many different ways. Either choose butter or choose jam. Don't put both together because it's that. Being able to do that, being able to give people their due, being able to let them do what they want to do, like having toast with jam and butter, or having banana and bacon sandwiches. This is one of my cousins who'd done that when she was pregnant with her second child. Bacon and banana pieces. Just wrong in so many fucking different ways. I'm not a big fan of banana. I like freeze-dried bananas. They're quite a good wee snack. I just drizzle them with honey and I eat them with a snack watching a movie or movie straight. I haven't actually done that in fucking years. Fuck. Freeze-dried bananas. I do like dehydrate them, whack them in the freezer or in the fridge for a couple of days until they're like crisp. Then you can snap them and dip them in honey. Ah! He was. Oh, don't get me wrong, I'm a Hellenist and a philosopher. I've read lots of Socrates. Trust me, I can speak. Oh God, my fave, obviously Diogenes. Who's be Diogenes? He is amazing. Obviously, still a Greek Hellenist. Most likely misogynist, slightly misogynist. Obviously, Plato and Socrates, completely misogynist. Obviously, because of the society they lived in. Who'd be worse? Who was worse? Socrates or Plato? Plato? Both of them were dog shite in many different ways. He's expressed regret in other areas, but not that one yet, Flo Snake, from what I can tell. And that person who is still in both Kev and Helena's and President Sunday's chat. Hopefully he'll get there soon. We need him to be on his game so he can actually help with the actually educate people about the midterms happening in slightly over a year. Dear God, I hope don't get me the Democrats are fucking dog shit. I don't want to see more GOP in fucking the Congress or the Senate. It's bad enough as it is. Oh God, America, why the fuck?
And look at how deeply personally unfair this is. Or, of course, if I'm in a more socially conscious liberal arts form of my default setting, I can spend time in the end of the day traffic being disgusted about all the huge, stupid, lane-blocking SUVs and Hummers and V12 pickup trucks burning their wasteful, selfish 40-gallon tanks of gas. And I can dwell on the fact that the patriotic or religious bumper stickers always seem to be on the biggest, most disgustingly selfish vehicles, driven by the ugliest, see, this is an example of how not to think.
Oh, dear God.
Biggest, most disgustingly selfish vehicles driven by the ugliest, most inconsiderate and aggressive drivers. And I can think about how our children's children will despise us for wasting all the future's fuel and probably screwing up the climate, and how spoiled and stupid and selfish and disgusting we all are, and how modern consumer society just sucks, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. If I choose to think this way in the store and on the freeway, fine. Lots of us do. Except thinking this way tends to be so easy and automatic that it doesn't have to be a choice. It is my natural default setting. It's the automatic way that I experience the boring, frustrating, crowded parts of adult life when I'm operating on the automatic, unconscious belief that I am the center of the world and that my immediate needs and feelings are what should determine the world's priorities. The thing is that, of course, there are totally different ways to think about these kinds of situations. In this traffic, all these vehicles stuck and idling in my way, it's not impossible that some of these people in SUVs have been in horrible auto accidents in the past and now find driving so terrifying that their therapist has all but ordered them to get a huge, heavy SUV so they can feel safe enough to drive. Or that the Hummer that just cut me off is maybe being driven by a father whose little child is hurt or sick.
It is quite good, isn't it? I'm actually enjoying this. He is saying lots of true and accurate shit. Being able to actually see this stuff, to actually open people's eyes and open people's minds, saying, yeah, this sucks. It does suck. We've been saying it sucks for the last sort of the 80 plus years, really. Don't get me wrong, the post-war consensus, loved it, brilliant. NHS, social security, all that lovely stuff. Lots of council homes, council houses getting built. Amazing, fucking love it. Then she happened. Don't get me wrong, there was the dog shit governments in the 60s and 70s and stuff like different mix between Labour and Tory. And, titties was a thing, and so was James Callaghan. I don't know. Then she happened. I was born in the March. She became Prime Minister in the May. My stepdad blames me being brought into the world. The reason she came into power and went into number 10 is because she knew that a socialist had been born, an actual communist, and I turned around and say to him, fuck off. Yes, fuck her. I hope she's burning. Oh, oh, I need to find out, or if someone can find it and post it in the Discord. Frankie Boyle saying what should have happened after she died, or when she died. Is it when she died, or round about the same, is it round about that time? Just give us Scott's the shuffles. I might actually check.
And the
It
seat
was
next
on.
to him is trying to get this kid to the hospital.
Here's
And
the
he's in a
one.
way bigger, more legitimate hurry than I am. It is actually I who am in his way. Or I can choose to force myself to consider the likelihood that everyone else in the supermarket's checkout line is just as bored and frustrated as I am. And that some of these people probably have much harder, more tedious or painful lives than I do. Again, please don't think I'm giving you moral advice, or that I'm saying you're supposed to think this way, or that anyone expects you to just automatically do it, because it's hard. It takes will and effort. And if you are like me, some days you won't be.
I remember my mum telling me about that while I was packing everything up, getting ready to move down to Clydebank with my then partner, and saying to me, yeah, my mum was born in 1954, by the way, and she remembers living through that when she was in her late teens and early 20s before I turned up on the scene, essentially, and what it was like living through the winter of discontent. And she said it sucked. I thought, right, it can't get that much better. We went through quite a lot during the 70s of the oil crisis, the winter of discontent, and all that fucking stuff, and lots of people were being on strike, and Barbara Castle just being a fucking either an idiot or doing it deliberately. Yeah, lots of my older Trotskyist friends, I've only got one left now, and he's going to be 79 in July next year. 2012, oddly enough, for a Celtic fan and actual Trotskyist. It's quite funny to think about his birthday being on July the 12th. Fucking hell. He went through it as well, and I was asking him about it fucking years ago in the Solid Rock Cafe, saying, what was it like? It sucked, Katie. It did suck. Your mum probably went through the same. Yeah, he's only uh, seven 7 years older than my mum. She would have went through it before having you. I went through it in my late 20s, and she went through it in her mid 20s. It was horrible. It sucked. Ted Heath was an absolute fucking bastard. Obviously, he's a Tory. Then Callaghan, who was inept, heart in the right place, but he was fucking useless at it. Then we got her, and it got fucking 10 times worse. I hate the Tories. They could all fuck off. Oh no, yeah. Oh yeah. Pillock? Pillock isn't a swear word. That was weird. That getting blocked or getting hot modded. Nightbot. Pillock is an expletive. Cunt is an expletive. Fuckface is an expletive. Pillock isn't. Well, I don't class it as an expletive. It's just a pillock or an idiot or a numpty.
Be able to do it, or you just flat out won't want to. But most days, if you're aware enough to give yourself a choice, you can choose to look differently at this fat, dead-eyed, over-made-up lady who just screamed at her kid in the checkout line. Maybe she's not usually like this. Maybe she's been up 3 straight nights holding the hand of her husband who's dying of bone cancer. Or maybe this very lady is the low-wage clerk at the motor vehicles department who just yesterday helped your spouse resolve a horrific, infuriating red tape problem through some small act of bureaucratic kindness. Of course, none of this is likely, but it's also not impossible. It just depends what you want to consider. If you're automatically sure that you know what reality is and who and what is really important, if you want to operate on your default setting, then you, like me, probably won't consider possibilities that aren't annoying and miserable. But if you've really learned how to think, how to pay attention, then you will know you have other options. It will actually be within your power to experience a crowded, hot, slow, consumer hell type situation as not only meaningful, but sacred, on fire with the same force that lit the stars. Love, fellowship, the mystical oneness of all things deep down. Not that that mystical stuff's necessarily true. The only thing that's capital T true is that you get to decide how you're going to try to see it. This, I submit, is the freedom of real education, of learning how to be well-adjusted. You get to consciously decide what has meaning and what doesn't. You get to decide what to worship. Because here's something else that's weird but true. In the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is actually no such
Michael, David Foster Wallace, the channel that this is, it's 5 years old, and the channel's called After School. School with a K, not the classic spelling of school. So, just type in excellent servant but a terrible master, or just type in David Foster Wallace. I know who he is now. I remember watching a couple of videos of his back in the years ago now. This actual one is in my Discord. I like that. A tree that has the double helix. That looks quite cool. Quite like that.
such thing as atheism. There is no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And a compelling reason for maybe choosing some sort of God or spiritual type thing to worship, be it JC or Allah, be it Yahweh, the Wiccan mother goddess, or the Four Noble Truths, or some inviolable set of ethical principles, is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, then you will never have enough. Never feel you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally plant you. On one level, we all know this stuff already. It's been codified as myths, proverbs, cliches, epigrams, parables, the skeleton of every great story. The whole trick is keeping the truth up front in daily consciousness. Worship power, you will end up feeling weak and afraid, and you will need ever more power over others to numb you to your
Joffrey? Certainly looks like Joffrey.
Your own fear. Worship your intellect, being seen as smart, you will end up feeling stupid, a fraud, always on the verge of being found out. Look, the insidious thing about these forms of worship is not that they're evil or sinful. It is that they are unconscious. They are default settings. They're the kind of worship you just gradually slip into day after day, getting more and more selective about what you see and how you measure value without ever being fully aware that that's what you're doing. And the so-called real world will not discourage you from operating on your default settings, because the so-called real world of men and money and power hums merrily along on the fuel of fear and anger and frustration and craving and the worship of self. Our own present culture has harnessed these forces in ways that have yielded extraordinary wealth and comfort and personal freedom. The freedom all to be lords of our own tiny skull-sized kingdoms, alone at the center of all creation. This kind of freedom has much to recommend it. But of course, there are all different kinds of freedom, and the kind that is most precious you will not.
That's good to know. Excellent. Being able to reach out to each other and actually have a discussion. I love that. It's amazing. I've done that before in pageant, IRL, and online many years ago. Oh, Scribby, my dude. Should I cover Dunt? Dun dun dun. I used to actually be a patron of the bunker many years ago now, when I first started actually. Might be actually quite good to actually cover Dunt. If he's still relevant. Actually highlighting who he is and what he's done in his past and what he's doing now might be quite interesting. I did used to agree with him on certain things. I don't now because of reasons. I connect more with Alex. Oh God! Everyone go and read the Byline Times about that stupid Operation Restoring Freedom. So just type in Byline Times. When did Super Hubby show me that? Earlier this week. Just go over to Byline Times and you'll find this best one to break down that 6-page document that Reform put out. Ian Dunt. It can be, but in certain aspects, it can be coming from a place of maliciousness that you don't actually recognize within yourself.
Not hear much talked about much in the great outside world of wanting and achieving and displaying. The really important kind of freedom involves attention and awareness and discipline and being able truly to care about other people and to sacrifice for them over and over in myriad petty little unsexy ways every day. That is real freedom. That is being educated and understanding how to think. The alternative is unconsciousness, the default setting, the rat race, the constant gnawing sense of having had and lost some infinite thing. I know that this stuff probably doesn't sound fun and breezy or grandly inspirational the way a commencement speech is supposed to sound. What it is, as far as I can see, is the capital T truth with a whole lot of rhetorical niceties stripped away. You are, of course, free to think of it whatever you wish. But please don't just dismiss it as some finger-wagging Dr. Laura sermon. None of this stuff is really about morality or religion or dogma or big fancy questions of life after death. The capital T truth is about life before death. It is about the real value of a real education, which has almost nothing to do with knowledge and everything to do with simple awareness. Awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us all the time, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over, this is water. This is water. It is unimaginably hard to do this, to stay conscious and alive in the adult world day in and day out. Which means yet another grand cliche turns out to be true. Your education really is the job of a lifetime, and it commences now.
Some do, because it was incredibly expensive to use the colour purple. Treat those who are good with goodness, and also treat those who are not good with goodness. Thus goodness is attained. Be honest to those who are honest, and be also honest to those who are not honest. Thus honesty is attained. Let's see. That's not always possible, like Sue. Don't get me wrong. It kind of holds true in certain aspects of life. Hmm. I do quite like that quote. This one is easier to achieve than this one. If they're doing being dishonest for gain and obfuscating or hiding what they're actually like, it's not always possible to actually deal with them in complete honesty. Case in point, your stammer. Shall we look at this? Oh, open here. Oh God, I should have actually brought that up. Thank you for reminding me about that one, Nick. Why aren't you working? Ah, there you go. I'll just let that headline sink in. Hold on 1 minute. Read. Okay, this should be quite quick. Keir Starmer has been accused of, and neither he nor Number 10 have denied, that he used tax dollars to avoid inheritance tax on his parents' estate by giving them land through a trust that would ultimately come back to him along with the rest of their estate without incurring inheritance tax. According to Times journalist Gabriel Pogrund, who says the allegation is meticulously researched by himself and by tax experts, curiously, Number 10 will not answer. Despite having a list of straightforward questions for weeks and Stammer retaining a leading tax King's Counsel or KC, which is a lawyer, which what he was. Technically, he still is a King's Counsel, following an original approach. So he's going to the conference with Graham. Well, it should be easy for Graham to get to. Graham lives in Manchester, if I remember correctly. I can't remember where Phil actually lives. Scrubby, do you know where Phil lives? Another coffin nail. Here, my lovely Prime Minister. I mean this with all due deference. Get to fuck. Your position as Prime Minister is untenable. Whether it's untenable within the Labour Party, I have no idea. I'm not a Labour Party member anymore. My sister still is. With any luck, she'll be leaving anytime soon. Not sure if she'll join the SNP or the Scottish Greens, but I just want her to leave the Labour Party. That's my middle sister, by the way. Your position as Prime Minister is completely untenable. Piss off. Fucking hell. Why is this? Why is this our Prime Minister? Seriously, I went through this for 15 years or 14 years with the Tories. Why is that individual my Prime Minister? I didn't vote for them. Oh, Scrubby, I love you so much. Uh, sorry to expose you to this individual, everyone, but fuck it. Let's see how much I can actually get through this. It's over an hour long. Fuck. Yeah, socialists. Yeah. Shall we try to see how much we
who
can
they are,
actually
because
get
the
through?
far right claim to be patriots, no, and they claim to want to protect women, which, you know, is a very hunter-gathery sort of thing to do, isn't it? Very caveman. But even that is powerfully untrue. I'm going to show you why as well, for those who did.
If that says, I'll go back. Twitter. If that's the year he was born, he's only 3 years older than me. He's going to be 50 next year. He doesn't look too bad for 50, actually, if I was thinking about it. I don't think I look too bad for 46. But apparently we get more decrepit looking as we get older, us presenting people. Apparently. Total dog shit, obviously, because my mum still looks amazing, and she is 71.
Caveman. But even that is powerfully untrue. I'm going to show you why as well, for those who didn't already know. There's some people asking there about the digital ID, so bring that one up later, because that is going to be a bit of an issue. I did do a video on it earlier. There's not a huge more to say about it.
I can change if you want, or are we okay to see how much we can actually get through before we get completely rage filled and just start yelling at our screens, be it phone or laptop? Yes, unfortunately, but let's see if we can actually see what he's saying so we can actually say to people, don't go over to Phil's channel. He says this, he believes this, and inaccurate, maybe partly true. I'm game if you are.
But absolutely bring that up a bit later. But just to begin with, so there's something, it is sort of in the news, but it's not very prominent, right? And so I did a video earlier today, just to sort of preface it. I did a video earlier today on how, so Nigel Farage, and I'm not sure whether this is wise or not, it's certainly a little risky. Nigel Farage.
I love hedgehogs. They are, yeah, Michael, unfortunately, he is dreadful. I try to see how much I can actually get through and debunk what he's saying or give additional context to what he's actually saying on his streams and in his videos. Oh, by the way, for full disclosure, I used to be a member of his channel. I used to pay money each month to support Phil. This was years ago, obviously. Not now. I haven't actually paid towards Phil for the last 8 years. So we're talking over a decade ago. Well, first when he first started, maybe just before just before Brexit. So yeah, a decade ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago now. So just before the Brexit vote, and I paid my monthly membership fee for about 2 years, roughly, maybe just slightly under 2 years. Oh yeah, Oh, yes, that got me very fucking angry. Good. One of the main reasons he kept on attacking some of well, obviously he disagreed with Enemy of the People, actually, the Tories and Brexiteers from different parts of politics going after these lefty judges, the Enemy of the People and all that fucking nonsense, which is about 2017 or 18, I think. Then when he started defending parts of what these fucking right-wing fucking lunatics were saying, said, nope, Phil, you are incorrect. I am leaving. Goodbye. Of course. Of course. Unfortunately. But, in good news, I exist. Zach Polanski exists. And to a certain extent, Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultan exist. So we've got Kev, Helena, maybe Sultansky as well, to a certain degree. Graham Hughes, maybe. Obviously not Phil, but
has decided he doesn't want to get the blame for the massive surge in immigration we had, because although nobody is pinning it on him, they absolutely should be.
because that's true, Phil, but it sounds like you're going to fucking defend parts of what he actually said by the way you're actually framing this. Just saying.
And I suppose he can't take the chance that Labour at some point will work out how to communicate, right? And what I would certainly be doing if I were Labour would be saying, do you know that massive spike in net migration? 2022, 2023, that massive spike in net migration, that was caused by a policy. And you can prove it with, I mean, I know a lot of people aren't going to sit down and look through graphs, but you can prove it. It was down to a policy that...
Aha! Phil, I'm a sad researchy typey person for reasons. I have a lot of time on my hands. I actually go to Hansard's and I read things that the government put out that they don't want other, actual voters to read. I go and find it all. I read it all. So I can debunk some of the shit that you say and what the government does and says. I've actually went through Hansard's for anyone, for everyone here. Don't go through Hansard's. If you want me to look for specific parts of key legislation, just say to me. I go into Hansard's on like a weekly basis or at least 2 or 3 times a month. I go and check what's happening and read up on Hansard's. It is tedious and dry and mind-numbingly either boring or completely infuriating. But like I say, I've got plenty of time on my hands and I can research it and kind of decode it. Obviously, legislation is dry as fuck and difficult to parse, but I can read through it. I can understand it to a certain degree.
Nigel Farage vocally supported, right? So Nigel Farage doesn't want to get the blame for it, so he's calling it the Boris wave, which is perfectly reasonable because, you know, if you say to Reform UK supporter, oh, Nigel Farage, I seem to have missed that point, Phil, where he was Prime Minister. And he was. Boris Johnson was indeed the Prime Minister and Priti Patel was his Home Secretary, the one he chose to implement that policy. But Nigel Farage praised it. He called it a huge step forward, right? So anyway, Boris Johnson hit back by talking about the national security threats that Nigel Farage poses because of his reticence to criticise Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Now, although Nigel Farage will happily say, oh, no, it's totally Russia's fault that, you know, absolutely, it's Russia's fault that Russia has invaded Ukraine. It's very nice of you.
Yes, they literally invaded a sovereign country. There is no disputing that they've physically done that. They sent troops into Ukraine, which is wrong and illegal. We're not disputing that at all. Yeah, No one's disputing that, Phil. Trust me, we're not. Russia did invade Ukraine. They did. I love that. The idea of a hedgehog running about someone's splatterhouse. Love it. Amazing. I hope he's a good companion to be. I really do. I love hedgehogs. They look cute.
He nonetheless still says that it's our fault, NATO's fault, that Russia felt the need to, which is powerfully untrue.
Also correct, but I'm still not liking the way you're framing and saying that your inflection, the tone of your voice, and how the way you're actually saying it is giving tacit cover. I don't like it. It was against it was against international rules-based order, or whatever you want to say about that one. None of us are disputing that. Oh,
But nonetheless, that's his position, right? So Nigel Farage is making a big deal of that. So I'm going a roundabout way here. So what has this got to do with some news today? So you may have seen it. You won't have seen it prominently displayed. You may have seen it. The headline in the BBC is ex-reform politician admits Russia-linked bribery charges. Now that is downplaying a great deal. This particular ex-reform politician was Reform UK's Welsh leader, so fairly prominent, and more importantly than that, very, very close to Nigel Farage. Because you look at this and you think, so in terms of these bribery charges, by the way, he took money off Russia to make pro-Russian statements in the European Parliament when he was an MEP. Now, let's just go back over his past. So he was an MEP.
so does lots of other MEPs, by the way, including ones here from the UK. That is nothing new. That's been happening since the European Parliament was created. Again, we're not disputing that. He did, yes, because Kev is based and Kev is knowledgeable and knows how to do research, and so do I, and so does Helena. And to a certain extent, so does Phil, but he doesn't actually show that in the way he actually presents himself for reasons that I can't look into. Obviously, I don't know the man. I've never met him. And I can't look into his mind. Obviously, would I want to? Huh. That is debatable, really. Yes, very curious. Makes you think, doesn't it?
For UKIP, right, under Nigel Farage. And that's what people are saying, by the way. The ever brilliant Emma Monk has done a debunk on it on Twitter, and apparently Blue Sky as well. We need more scientists in this. Because there's some people trying to say, oh no, that's UKIP, that's separate.
Hello, technically scientist and political interest person. Yeah, that he always does that. It does get on my tits. Don't get. Ugh. How do we? It's going to take more than me. It might actually take me, Kev, Helena, maybe Femi, maybe Subertansky, maybe Suze as well, to actually debunk that part of it, because we can actually have a coherent debate about it and ways to actually get people to think why NATO bad. Because it is. Obviously, it was set up by us and the Americans after the war for geopolitical and colonialist and imperialist reasons. It's always been like that. Anti-Bolshevik. essentially. Didn't work, obviously. I'm still a communist. And I was born the best part of 30 years. And my political awakening was best part of 95, the best part of 60 years after the end of the Second World War. Still communist. Will more than likely be a communist until my dying day, whenever that is. It didn't work. What Phil doesn't get is like people like me and Kevin Elaine and other people here in the UK and across the globe. We do exist. And we talk about this stuff for obvious reasons.
For this UKIP, because UKIP still exists, right? UKIP is still a political party. So they go, no, that's UKIP. No, it's not. Because these bribery charges are from after he was they weren't from while he was in UKIP. Even with Nigel Farage, they were from afterwards. So what?
I'm food. I'm going to get my sandwich. I'm going to get myself a sandwich. I will be back momentarily. I'll still be listening to Phil. You might hear me if he says something completely fucking egregious. You might hear me pottering about making myself a sandwich, but I will be back. Carry on, Phil, I guess.
What happened was, in fact, if you look at, I'll read it out to you in the news. Nathan Gill, 52, from oh Christ, I'll say Anglesey. Sorry, I'm gonna make it. I'll mangle the Welsh specific Welsh town. Anglesey, I can pronounce that. Pleaded guilty to 8 counts of bribery between 6th of December 2018 and 18th of July 2019. That's the point at which he left UKIP. Why did he leave UKIP? Because Nigel Farage had just left UKIP. So Nigel Farage leaves UKIP, right? He follows him, as well as a few others, right? And these bribery charges relate to when he was an MEP, but aligned with Farage. He wasn't technically in a party then, because the Brexit Party, he did join the Brexit Party and then Reform UK. The Brexit Party didn't technically exist. Actually, the Brexit Party did exist during the latter period of this bribery thing. But the point is, he was very close to Nigel Farage. And given that, Nigel Farage has... There's always been a lot of questions around Nigel Farage and his links with the Kremlin, as well as some other people he associates with. And, you know, you look at the fact that Boris Johnson recognises that that's the weakness, right? Because think about it this way. Boris Johnson, like Nigel Farage, he knows how to work the public. They're both populist leaders. They both understand how to, you know, what to go with. Their political antennae are quite useful for knowing what will chime with the public. Boris Johnson could have attacked, Nigel Farage for any number of things. Because Nigel Farage is very, in many ways, unconservative. And yet he chose to go with that one. Right, even though that is a weakness for Boris Johnson if you go back a few years, but he very much aligned with Ukraine after the full-scale invasion, so he feels strong on that. And more should be made of this, and the reason why I'm making a big deal of this, and I may do a specific video on it, but we will see, is because the far right claim to be patriots, right? They claim to be big patriots, and yet they have a lot of dubious links with foreign powers, just in general, but specifically hostile foreign powers, right? You've got people like...
So does Labour.
Even Tommy Robinson's group have got some links with some Russian oligarchs, but that's more a Reform UK thing. But even Tommy Robinson has got links with people who are attacking the UK, such as Elon Musk, right? So they claim that they're patriots, and yet you've got people... He's been done for, you know, taking bribes from the Russian state, and that should be more prominent because Nigel Farage was very close to him. And now it's not just that guilt by association, because Nigel Farage has also promoted Russian talking points. Nigel Farage has also echoed Kremlin talking points. The only thing we don't know is, did Nigel Farage accept money for it? He technically did, because he worked for Russia Today, didn't he? But in terms of, did he take money specifically for echoing pro-Russian talking points in the European Parliament? That's a question we should be asking, isn't it? Someone very close to him has been caught taking bribes from Russia to basically be the Kremlin's representative in the European Parliament. How do we know Nigel Farage didn't? Just because we haven't got the evidence? It's a question worth asking, isn't it? It's a question worth asking. But anyway, then there's the next point I want to talk. I'll catch you with some comments on this one. I know a lot of people talk about the digital ID. We'll get onto that. But I just want to go into something else as well, because did Vlad buy the house in Frinton? Was that the Clacton house? I honestly don't. I don't know, but that is another question that needs asking. Who paid for that house? Because Nigel Farage insists it wasn't him, and in fact it couldn't be him, otherwise he's broken the law. But we also know it can't realistically be his partner. Who paid for it? That question needs asking. It needs asking until we get an answer, because that does matter. That is a matter of public interest. It's not a private affair. Nigel Farage bought it. He says himself, he bought it in order to be able to do his job as an MP. So it's directly linked with his public duties. So we have a right to know how it was funded. And in fact, because of the possibility that he broke the law, that he's, committed tax evasion, not tax avoidance, tax evasion, which is illegal, there's a right to know from that point of view as well. So that is a question we need to keep asking. But anyway, another one I want to go into, because another thing about the far right, they claim to be patriots. They're anything but. They are shills. They are, because they're taking money from foreign interests who want to destabilise Britain. That's treason. I'm sorry. That is Lord Haw stuff, isn't it? That is exactly. They are Lord Haw. But anyway, then there's another one. Again, another story in the news. I've linked it in the description below, by the way, because they claim we're protecting girls and women, which, by the way, for a start, is a little bit dodgy in itself. But they are the biggest threats to women and girls. And I want to put it this way. So I've already mentioned before, we know that 40%, roughly 40% of everyone that was arrested for rioting, in fact, not just arrested, charged, last year, had it was arrested. Sorry, apologies. It was arrested. Had previous for domestic violence. So that means they were known to the police for domestic violence issues. And that doesn't count all the ones who will have committed domestic violence or abuse in some ways and have never been referred to the police, have never been, because no one's bothered to grass them up. So we know there's a way higher, because if you took a random, I don't know how many people, if you actually sampled, say, a group of men, would be guilty of domestic abuse, because much of it goes unreported. But if you were to grab a random selection of people from the high street on a normal day, I don't think, and even if it was just men, right, I don't think 40% of them would be known to the police for DV, right? So there's a way higher proportion. But there's something else now. Here it is. So this is a story about, let me just look where it is. Derby City Council. So we've had a spate of flags. I've discussed it once or twice. People putting flags up on lampposts, which has health and safety issues, of course, and it's for councils to put these things up, right? But Derby City Council have had to remove them. Again, it's, there's health and safety laws to consider. Now, it's a Labour council, by the way, still. One of these councillors, a Sarah Chambers, right, might give you a bit of a clue. She's been targeted by the far right for, you know, basically being the councillor that's authorised the removal of these flags, because, you know, the council has to do its job, right? It's got duties of its own which do not allow people to shin up lampposts and tie bits of cloth to them. So she's been, you know, she's been the target from these far right groups now. Now, what form do you think this targeting is? Do you think they've been writing emails to her saying, Miss Chambers, I don't agree with this, I'd like you to reconsider? No. What form do you think it takes, right? These far right attacks against this councillor, this female councillor, Sarah Chambers, they've taken the form of threats of violence and sexual violence. She's been threatened with rape, right? Now, ask yourself this: if this group of people who deny they're the far right, by the way, but if this group of people who are, you know, the flag bearers, the flag posters, what do you call it when you put a flag on a lamppost? I don't know. Tossers. But these people, right? They claim that they're acting patriotically and protectively, and specifically protectively of women, right? And yet, what happens when they don't like what a woman does? Threats of violence, threats of sexual violence. That's what they are. They're again highlighting themselves, and that is why I would have made a bigger issue of this. You know, that's why the media should be drawing attention to things like this. They should actually be doing a huge expose on who are these people really. If we had proper investigative journalism in this country, we do have a few investigative journalists, but if we had proper investigative journalists, what those journalists would be doing with Reform UK in particular, but actually Reform UK and Tommy Robinson both increasing in prominence, right? What they would be doing is reporting on exactly who these people are. They're reporting on the fact they've got dodgy foreign links, and they've got a history of when they don't like something that a woman does. They don't do it to me. They don't threaten me with violence, do they? Because they might get a smack in the mouth. Now, I mean, they wouldn't, because it's all anonymous, isn't it? But they don't do it to... I don't get it. I don't get this sort of behaviour. It's only women. And it's from one extreme to the other, right? The comments I get Reform UK supporters in my comments. I get Reform UK supporters who obviously watch my content for punishment, right? I don't complain. It's nice that it's not a complete echo chamber, you know what I mean? And what
because you're giving them tacit cover, Phil. They don't feel they're going to get called out too much by you or members of your community. Just saying. How do you think I left?
the comments I get comments like, oh no, you're wrong. They try and persuade me I'm wrong. Sometimes they'll say I'm lying. Sometimes they'll say, oh, you're a shill or something like that. I don't know who I'm...
You are wrong, and you are a shill. Yes, he did. God, I mislike Leslie.
supposed to be shilling for. The only money I get is from you guys. But nonetheless, you know,
That's wrong, Phil. You get money from AdSense on YouTube. Just saying.
that's what I get from them when they disagree with me. Oh no, you're wrong, and they'll try and persuade me I'm wrong without actually pointing out where I'm actually saying anything that's wrong. Or they'll just call me a liar or something like that. That's it. That's all I get. I don't get threats. Women get threats. These people threaten women.
Men get threats as well. Men get threats as well. You're being kind of misandrous there, Phil. Thankful snake.
And it's not just like they call them rude words. It's not like there's a different. I'm not saying.
Well, you mean fuckers or cunts or completely clueless bastards. Some people in your community are clueless bastards, Phil. Or disingenuous cunts. Just saying. I'm sorry, I must apologise. I've forgotten all the social etiquette that my mum and my gran told me, or taught me. Do not speak with your mouth full. Because if someone says something ridiculous while I'm still eating because I need the sustenance, I'm going to call them out for it, even though it might actually choke me. Which has happened because I've been umpty. Phil, those two things are not accurate. You don't know that. You see people who you're in your chat, you don't know it's a parasocial relationship, as, obviously. You can't actually say that because you don't know everyone in your community. I don't know everyone in my community. I haven't met yous. From what I get from what you see in my chat, in my community, and on my Discord, I mostly agree. You people are lovely. You are amazing. You're very insightful. Deeply incurious. Doesn't look at his own intersections. Phil, please let me open your eyes. It will help you. And if you still stay on that same track, your same thinking, the way you actually conduct yourself on your stream, on your in your channel, fine, fair enough. I'm still going to call you out for it.
There's just a difference between the way they treat me and the way they treat women. It goes to the other scale. It goes from, they don't even call me names other than liar or something like that. Nothing really nasty. And yet for women, it's the other scale. It's violence.
Clueless or incurious. Maybe a liar. Can't be proven until you actually say something which we all know is completely false and you made it up. Or you're going on what Starmer says or what the rest of the Labour Bureau says. And we have called it, we called them out for it as well. We've actually said this to people in our communities.
And sexual violence they threaten me with, and this is what they are. And newspapers should be doing that. They should be promoting it. Sometimes they'll.
Oh, that was a close one. Phil, thanks. I nearly choked on my snack.
They'll talk about the racism within the movement, right? But they should be talking about the sexual violence within the movement. They really should be doing that, and it's utterly disgusting that they don't. Because they're not going to tell me that wouldn't be good for clicks as well, are they? They're not going to tell.
They won't talk about it or call it out in case the people look too closely at what they've actually said in the past and what actually gets dug up. Don't you think that might be happening, Phil? Maybe that's why they're not talking out about it. Just saying.
Me that wouldn't be scandalous enough for them to report, because I understand some stories it's they need to do it for clicks, right? They need to be ultra competitive. I don't have to be as competitive as them, you know. But so they view women as objects, not humans. Just sticking. That's exactly it. That is why these people are able to do it, because they don't see women as people. It's the same way that they, you know, in terms of the racism, the fact that they can talk about like physically forcing people who've born and grown up here, because that's what remigration is. That's what they're trying to bring in, right? That's what they call it, remigration. What they mean is taking anyone who isn't white and deporting them. They don't mean foreigners, by the way. They don't mean foreigners even. They mean anyone who's not white. They're white supremacists. And it's the same thing. They've been conditioned to not see people with different colour skin as human. And even some people who are white, if they're Eastern European, they've learned to think of them as subhuman as well. But it is, there you go. They back down really fast when I call them princess. Well, but and this should be reported on. I think something like this being properly investigated would be good for clicks. But they don't do it, do they? I very rarely get a polite, sensible comment from a Reform voter in my comments, always badly spelled childish insults. Well, I don't even get that. But, I mean, even if it is, I mean, that's still, I mean, childish insults is like whatever it is. You know, when you've got people, like this lady here was, because she doesn't know that it's just people blown off. What if it only takes one of them to be serious? So she's now had to think about her security, her own safety, which is ridiculous for just doing her job. She hasn't even made a policy decision. She's literally just...
Do you think that happens in the Palace of Westminster, Phil? Do you think that happens in the Palace of Westminster, Phil? I suspect it might be happening, the violence towards many different types of genders, men, women, MBs. I do believe it's happened from what we get from what Mary Black says and how much of a toxic environment it is. I think it has happened. Actual physical violence of that nature. I think that has happened not within, well, maybe it was in the actual Palace of Westminster or in the surrounding areas. I suspect that might have happened. Correct, full snake. Some of us do have memories that he did do that. Delightful.
doing the job the council is legally bound to do. She hasn't even said, right, that's enough, we've had enough of the flags, I'm going to take them down now. She's doing it because which would still be a fair enough thing to do, but she's just doing it to comply with her own legal duties. It's worth bearing in mind, even the Reform UK Council in Durham did the same thing. They haven't had threats, have they, of violence? Have the Reform UK councillors in Durham doing the same thing? Have they been threatened with violence? No, they have.
You can't say that conclusively. You don't know what's happening in Durham unless you live in Durham. Anyone, where's Phil based? Just give us general area if he's in a major city or if he's in somewhere in a town or a small city or something like that. I would love to know where Phil is based.
Haven't, because they see them as on the same side, right? Because they see the Reform UK councils, oh, well, they've got to do it. We'll change the law. They've got to do it because it's the law. We'll change the law when we're in power. When she does the same thing, threats of violence. Cara, they're saying, Mary Beard talks about the vicious emails she often got after her TV programmes. It's utterly endemic. It's utterly endemic. These extremists, you do get it on the left as well, I will point out, but the big issue we have here is on the right. And these extremists who are, I mean, they talk about integration. Oh, they should integrate. They should integrate. These are people who are on the outside of society. You know, it's not possible if you are integrated into society, it's not possible to see people as not people. Like, they see them as rats, as vermin.
The minute this poll's down, I'm going to read out I've been fucking hell. I've been going for fucking basically 4 hours now. I'm still going quite well, but I'm going to go into a community, and you're more than welcome to follow me. But we'll find someone to go to. Correct, Cribby. Totally correct. Some self-reflection, Phil, might be a good idea for you. Just saying.
Richard, they're saying protecting our women equals protecting our property. Well, maybe that is how they see it, yeah. Frank, they're saying they know how you can defend yourself, Phil. Well, you say that's what I think subconsciously they're thinking, yeah. Because in reality, they could still send me the same messages and I wouldn't go out and beat them up, apart from the fact that I don't randomly go out beating people up anyway. But I wouldn't even know where they were, would I? Even if I was a rager, I wouldn't actually know where they were. But on a subconscious level, yes, I think that is what they think. They think he's a bloke, I don't want to mess with him, right? Whereas with a woman, she should know her place. I'll sort her out. But anyway. Do I see a parallel today between now and the Nick Griffin years? This is worse, of course, because Nick Griffin was never able to become mainstream. So this is worse because you've now got these same talking points discussed in the Telegraph as if it's serious debate, and the Daily Express and the Daily Mail and the Sun. I don't really read the Sun, but occasionally you come across someone paraphrases what they've been publishing.
Correct, socialites. Let us go and say hi to Raptor Blue. Raptor is based. He is American. He is based in Washington, state of Washington, not Washington, D.C. He'd be awesome. He'd be black. He'd be a black radical. God, I've still got 8 views on YouTube. I do apologize, YouTube. If any of you have Twitch accounts, please come over. I'm going over to Raptor Blue on Twitch
Someone?
with my 3
Do I?
viewers.
Sure. So what now? You tell me more, or what?
I'll just mute that a second. Hello. We'll read out. We'll go over to Raptor Blue because he is awesome and I love him. He's BIPOC, he's bisexual, he's a person of colour. He is a black radical. He is playing No, I Am Not Human. Oh, it's this one. Oh, fucking hell. This one looks weird, but it's quite fun. YouTube comrade, feel free to come over to Twitch and say hello.